See Channel 1 TV shows for the day's biggest stories, trustworthy news and family entertainment. Log on to KBC Channel 1. Watch what you want anytime, anywhere.
Mother, and he carries my blood.
Oh, just let me know when you want to meet your son. Would you give me another chance?
But it's too soon to think about
I promise to make you very happy.
You think maybe you could show me a photograph of your sister?
If things continue the way they are, the girls are going to be my whole responsibility.
You've got to show him your capabilities, you hear me?
Bobby is not going to work for me, Roberto.
I'm leaving.
What?
Well, what can I say? Viva Manchester United, that's what we do. And if you can't take the heat, you go hiding. So wherever Victor you are, it's okay. We trust and believe that you are okay. It's Manchester United's Monday morning brief. Good morning, ladies.
Umesema leo wewe na amani kidogo.
Different
directions.
I'm taking no hostages. I mean,
woke up today and chose violence.
I mean, remember, people had said so much about Manchester United or the lack of a coach. They had CR7, that is Cristiano Ronaldo. Nothing is coming through. Well, now you can see that the old Manchester United is coming up. Now, mambo bado. But for Chelsea, I know they're still listening and watching. Well, we need to thrash Watford, get them out of the way, tackle as well as Arsenal. Hiyo tumemalizana, done and dusted. Tunasonga mbele,
Nakukumbusha nini? Director nakukumbusha nini?
Oh, we are still doing the 16 days of activism against
So choose peace. Choose peace. That is just a reminder.
Hata kama iliwaga killed in action kind of situation, KIA.
But I'm a peace-loving Kenyan until when I'm not.
When you're in your Manchester United character.
Kabisa.
All right.
I'm a the Meru
Congratulations.
I'm a the Meru character, you know.
Two characters disqualify peace.
You see, if a community doesn't have any song, have you ever heard of a Meru sing? Apart from me who sang Happy Birthday here on national television, have you ever heard of a Meru song?
Good question.
Newton Karish is not a Meru, he's an ambient, so that's out of question. Have you ever heard of Ushaiskia?
None that comes to mind.
There's none. Jane, good morning.
Good morning. We do trust you had a beautiful weekend. As always, we are happy that you always choose to start your morning with us right here on Good Morning Kenya. I am Jane Wumboy, and today we're going to be having one very needless to say, timely conversation, because when we come to looking at the Kenyan space, when you talk about unemployment, it has always been a problem that we have been tackling since time immemorial, and the situation keeps getting worse, and especially so for the youth, and especially those aged between 20 and 29. They are the biggest group that is heavily affected when it comes to unemployment. But what are those issues that bring about unemployment? Today we are going to be looking at the education aspect of it, and particularly tertiary institutions, higher education. In what way does it contribute to unemployment among the youth? And what are the solutions that lay ahead for us as a country to just help bring down the unemployment levels that we are seeing in this day and time? We welcome you to share with us your thoughts in regard to that matter. But what are the issues that you are seeing, and what are the potential solutions that you think as a Kenyan, as part of the Kenyan population, that could help bring this situation or just bring down the levels that we are seeing? The hashtag that you need to use is Good Morning Kenya. We will be giving you our handles in a bit. Doreen, good morning.
Good morning to you, as well as all of us from whichever part of this country you're watching the program from. We appreciate you for tuning in this Monday morning. Happy new week. Plenty more in store for you this morning, from what is making news, the different dailies, to the GMK news brief, the different conversations that we have in store for you this Monday, as well as also how our roads will be looking like. So clearly a lot in store for you up until 10 a.m. and we urge you to stay tuned up until that time. Thank you so much for making time. I'm Doreen Arange Okelo.
I'm yet to come to terms with that. Every time you give us a name, like takes a moment there.
You're like, wait a moment. Someone just did add a name to their name.
She has a new one. We're all for it. Regina.
Yes, when we grow up, we'll also get those new names. And as they say, we'll get new bodies all together in heaven, right?
Oh, Father Lord.
But I hope the names will come before the new bodies in heaven. Hallelujah.
Amen.
Okay.
You went to church yesterday.
Oh, yes, I did.
You have a word for us.
Oh, yes. As we're marking the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, yesterday in church, the priest was talking about, we were marking the Jubilee. Catholics understand that. And he talked about love. And he was talking to those people who are in a relationship and said that we often read the Bible selectively to suit our situations and circumstances, but the Word of God should be read in entirety. So he said, there's that statement that says, wife should submit to the husband. And he says most often when he goes to arbitrate, in couples, you'll hear the man saying that I hit my wife because she disrespected me. She's not submissive enough. So she challenged the menfolk within the congregation yesterday and said, but do you know that there's also part of the scripture that says that husband, love your wife as Christ loved the church? And you could hear the hush in the church. Why? And he went on to say, God's love, or rather Christ's love for the church, it is embodied in the fruits of the Spirit: kindness, goodness, selflessness, and such, generosity. So he concluded and said that submission can only happen in the presence of love. That's the sermon. That was my take home.
And actually, that's why that Bible verse starts with the love first and then submission, because God is a God of order. This thing just has a process in which it follows, not the other way around.
Yes. So if you love that person, it will be very easy for them to relinquish, the hold that they have on their own lives. Because, if it's a man, they say that a man has 3 roles. You're the protector,
provider,
you're the prophet, you're the provider. That's the role of a man in a relationship. Well, we're not talking about relationships. Remember that we welcome your feedback. That was just a take home from yesterday's Mass, so to speak. So if you do not get to go to Mass, well, you just shared a bit of what we had during Mass yesterday. Now let's cross over to those stories that have been making headlines in the last 24 hours. And we start off on a sad note, where survivors of the fatal weekend accident in Mwingi, in which a bus was swept into a river by floodwaters, say the tragic incident could have been avoided had there been a bridge over River Enziu. 23-year-old Joyous Mutua, survivor who lost her mother, siblings and aunts, narrated her narrow escape as the mission to retrieve more bodies continues.
The shocked residents of Mwingi are puzzled by the tragic accident that claimed over 20 lives at a crossing area on River Enziu. Watch from a distance as bodies are retrieved. Joyous Mutua escaped death by a whisker. The melodious choir planned to travel to Nu in Mwingi East, Kitui County to attend the wedding ceremony of the brother to Father Benson Kichambo. On the fateful Saturday, members of St. Cecilia Church Choir in Mwingi Town, together with family members of Father Benson Kichambo, boarded the St. Joseph Seminary school bus, a trip that was cut short by the raging water of River Enziu. Joyous Mutua is one among the 10 who escaped the deadly plunge.
Inside the bus, there's a lot of commotion. Children crying, women, young wanaume. Within few seconds, there was darkness. Bus is up. You could only hear very vague voices from other people.
Na baadhi ya wale Mungu aliwamewaita kwake, mmoja ni bibi yangu na mwingine ni mtoto wa kazini yangu.
Hatujawaona na hatujui wako wapi. Mmoja wao akiwa mwanafunzi mmoja wa KMTC anafahamika kama Josephat Kweta Kanundu. Alikuwa mwaka wa kwanza semester ya pili na anafanya clinical medicine.
She says the accident could have been avoided. Mwingi East OCPD Joseph Yakan says it's not yet clear the number of passengers who were on the bus.
This is not the first time, and therefore it is painful to see something like this happen when it has happened before. The bodies that have already been retrieved right now are over 23. We have more bodies in the bus. I am told about 8 people have been saved, and we have also 4 children that have been saved.
2 more bodies were retrieved from the scene on Sunday.
Now, that particular story is very unfortunate. It took me aback to that incident where the lady and a mother and her daughter perished crossing the Likoni Channel some years back there, as hopeless Kenyans just watched that transpire. So much has been said about this particular incident that happened in Kitui, and one of the things that has come out clearly is that this would have been avoided. The persons, or rather the passengers who were up on board, the survivors, have come out to say that the ones who pushed the driver to drive past the raging waters, or try and cross the river there to speak. It has been dubbed the River of Death, and according to a witness account, they say that the persons on board sang and praised and prayed for the water levels to subside, and when they saw the smaller vehicles making it across, they overloaded the bus to add weight onto it and decided to take the risk. How unfortunate. So far, 25 bodies have been recovered in that particular channel, or rather that river, so to speak. May their souls continue resting in peace. Now, over to still more sad stories. 2 more people have been rescued from the collapsed Abimbo gold mines in Bondo Sub-County and are receiving treatment at Bondo Sub-County Hospital. According to Bondo DCC Richard Karani, the 2 were rescued early Sunday morning in critical condition.
2 men, Bernard Ochieng and Michael Onyango, were pulled out of the mines alive but in critical condition and were rushed to Bondo Sub-County Hospital for treatment. Sunday's breakthrough brings the total number of those who have been removed from the mine to 4. Rescue mission to retrieve the remaining miners is still ongoing. Bondo Deputy County Commissioner Richard Karani said on Sunday that oxygen is still being pumped to the mining shaft and they are in communication with those still trapped. Digging by excavators was stopped to reduce any risks of further collapse, and manual digging had been adopted. 8 miners were buried alive when the mine collapsed on Thursday afternoon.
Keep tabs on that. Remember, Kenya still practices artisanal mining. Now, over to schools and matters of unrest, where Miranda High School has been closed indefinitely and students sent home following yet another fire incident at the school. The fire engulfed a dormitory at the school, destroying students' belongings and property of unknown value. The incident comes 2 days after Form 4 students were sent home after threatening to burn the institution.
These were the scenes on Sunday mid-morning at Miranda High School in Siaya County. The second floor of Owino complex was reduced to ashes. Just days ago, 400 students were sent home for threatening to burn the school.
It takes a year, 2 years to build a wonderful school, and with a lot of taxpayers' money. So these are the issues we must accept. They are there, and then we find out how do we come together and address them, and even talk to our students.
Siaya County firefighters tried to extinguish the flames, but the cloud of smoke made it impossible to salvage anything tangible.
It is a compounded problem that we as a government, stakeholders, parents, everybody, civil society, we come together. It's our problem. Si shida ya shule.
In November, Miranda High School was closed indefinitely after a fire razed down a dormitory housing 178 students. The incident comes even as 2 suspects, a teacher and a Form 4 student at Taranganya Boys Secondary School in Kuria West, were arrested in connection to a school fire which destroyed property of unknown value on Saturday. The duo are currently in police custody as investigation continues.
Unfortunate at a time, when government has insisted that, learning should continue undisrupted, and those found culpable are going to face the full force of the law. The parents and guardians are bearing the brunt of this current school unrest there. With over the last few months or so, we have seen schools that have, had these cases of arson, so to speak. Having to take back the children with not less than, we have had 20,000, 15,000, just depending on the amount of destruction that has been meted out, or rather has happened on the school property, so to speak. So is there more than meets the eye? Remember, we are open to your feedback. You can get us on Twitter at KBC Channel 1. Now we cross over to this matters politics, where ODM leader Raila Odinga is expected to declare his candidature for president this Friday in a meeting to be held at the Moi International Stadium, Kasarani. Speaking at AIPCA Njiro Church on Sunday, Raila said he has been going around the country seeking views from Kenyans on whether to vie for the presidency, and he will make his decision known come Friday.
AIPCA in Njiro, Kasarani constituency. ODM leader Raila Odinga is invited to kneel in front of the congregation for anointment by Reverend using a special oil used by church to bless leaders.
Na Mungu Baba, na Mungu Mwana, na Mungu Roho Mtakatifu.
After anointment and intercession for good political tidings. In his speech, the former Prime Minister explained why he has been championing for Azimio la Umoja initiative.
Tunataka usawa, kutambua mtu ati hata kama yeye ana kidogo au hana, hiyo sio kupenda kwake. Tunataka kuona kama ile taifa tutajenga, tutapatia kila mtu nafasi ya kupanda juu kiuchumi, ili watu wetu waweze kuishi kwa maisha ya ungwana. Hiyo ndio Kenya tunataka kujenga. Ndio sababu hiyo Kenya tunataka vile waanzilishi wa taifa letu walikuwa nasema, raha tupate na ustawi. Wale ambao hawana chochote na njaa hana raha.
Raila said he has been seeking the views of Kenyans on his suitability for the presidency, and he would state his decision next week Friday.
Aendelee siendelee? Wewe unasema baba aendelee. Basi Ijumaa ijayo tarehe 10 mwezi wa Desemba kule Kasarani, nataka mpike, mimi nitatoa jawabu.
A section of lawmakers allied to Raila Odinga urged their supporters to listen to President on the most suitable successor.
Nimekuja hapa ili nihakikishie wale wasapili wako hapa Njiro, wale wako Nairobi, kwamba mimi nilishika mkono wa baba, tukaanza kupanda mlima mayaka itokinyeta 3 quarter, tumebakisha kakuota tu, na wakati baba amesimama kwa mlima, mnajua baba akisimama kwa mlima hakuna kona ota moja ya Kenya ambayo haioni.
Later, the former Prime Minister held roadside rallies in Kasarani constituency, where he rallied Kenyans to turn up for Kasarani meeting on 10th December.
Come Friday, KBC Channel 1 is going to be bringing you that live coverage, so do keep it right here. And what do you anticipate from, that particular announcement come Friday? Do you think he's going to be making, even making his presidential bid known, as well as will there be, is there a coalition in the making? That is going to be tackled as we proceed with those, current affairs and discussions. And you're welcome to chip in your views in regard to that matter and everything else that we are broadcasting for you this morning. Now, still keeping up with matters politics, Nyeri Governor Mutahi Kahiga now says Mount Kenya is ready for Deputy President William Ruto. Here is a recap of what happened in Deputy William Ruto's tour, or rather his stint in Nyeri County.
It was a weekend of political bare knuckles as leaders allied to the deputy president took a swipe at his main political nemesis Raila Odinga. Nyeri Governor Mutahi Kahiga leading the charge, alleging that the Raila brand will be hard to sell in Nyeri County.
Narration imeonekana. Wewe ukitaka kujua the history of Kenya, fuata baba. Ukitaka kujua mahali Kenya inaenda, fuata hii mwanaume. I think that is all we want to say. Na zinaonekana, it is clear, because even baada ya mimi kuongea na yeye na kumwambia Nyeri tunaenda hivi, alikaa siku mbili na ilikuwa tu ni anaenda kidogo anarudia historia. Sasa
Mutahi Kahiga's sentiments appears to be pointing towards a political course charted in the past by those determined to tilt the scale against the ODM leader Raila Odinga in the region. Kahiga's remarks come just a week after the governor challenged the ODM leader to offer tangible promises to the residents of the Mount Kenya region.
Hao wananchi wamekaa pale, Wakikuyu watoka Mlima Kenya, wanataka kusikia what is there in your government for them. Wanataka kujua ni nini iko huko. Hata mimi nataka kujua. We have listened to history na tunajua, but we want to know, ukipewa serikali, je, what do you have to offer us for our 500 votes, 500,000 votes? That is key. Hii hadithi nyingine ilikuwa yes we want security, tunajua utatupa. We want you to focus and tell us, je, nyinyi watu wa Mlima Kenya, mimi nikichukua serikali, don't tell us about deputy president. Hiyo ni kitu kidogo deputy presidency. Tumeona hata wale wamepewa, what have they done with it?
And as his allies went after Odinga, the deputy president struck a conciliatory tone, urging Kenyans to unite behind a common development agenda.
We all are brothers and sisters of one great nation called Kenya, and I agree with the leaders that we must make it possible for us to live in harmony, all of us as the citizens of Kenya, na tuwaulize viongozi wote wakubali wa Kenya watembee kila sehemu ya Kenya.
The deputy president's visit to Nyeri County comes just a week after that of Raila Odinga.
About politics, Machakos Governor Dr. Alfred Mutua has pledged to improve the welfare of the citizens if elected president in 2022. Mutua, who on Sunday launched his presidential manifesto, asked Kenyans to be wary of politicians who are promising them the unattainable.
Maendeleo Chapter. In a 13-pillar manifesto, Maendeleo Chapter party leader Alfred Mutua said he's the best candidate to take over as president. Mutua said he would prioritize Kenya's debt, food security, favorable business environment, among other development goodies.
It is now our time. We who have been neglected and taken for granted for so long, we are all created equal, and we should be able to prosper regardless of where one was born, tribe, where they come from, their gender, physical ability, or disability. That, my fellow Kenyans, is my driving force. Desire for a country where you dream, you exert yourself, and where dreams come true, where you plan, act, and your despair is turned to hope, where you get what you deserve. Because with me, and we all know in this country, that it is very important for us to have a time when Kenyans work hard and get what they deserve. This is the time now for every Kenyan, time for a fresh start and taking back control of our country and its resources. As I said earlier on before, mambo ni fresh na Mutua.
The presidential hopeful also pledged to improve police welfare by reviewing the salaries upward to help fight crime and corruption within the service.
Police officers' packages and salaries will be reviewed upwards comparative to international standards. A police security officer should be within the middle class economic strata and above the lowest paid police officer and above. Therefore, the lowest paid police officer in Kenya under my government will receive a minimum basic salary, before adding other things, basic salary of 50,000 shillings.
The Maendeleo Chapter party leader joins a growing list of aspirants to outline their intention for Kenya if elected president.
Mambo iko fresh, that's what they say. Well, as you say, we are in the campaign trail, so to speak. Come August 9th, 2022, you and I as Wanjiko are going to make the decision who is going to be leading the country for the next 10 years. So choose wisely. Just remember, some of what they say does not really come to materialize. At the end of the day, Wanjiko holds the trump card. Now, Matungulu Member of Parliament Stephen Mule says Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka will be in the race for the presidency come the 2022 polls, dismissing those who are calling upon him to work with ODM leader Raila Odinga. The legislators said Kalonzo won't play second fiddle to anyone, saying he's the most likely presidential flag bearer under the Oka Alliance.
Speaking during a church service at AIC Itheuni in his constituency, Matungulu Member of Parliament Stephen Mule said Kalonzo Musyoka is firmly in the One Kenya Alliance and will most likely be the coalition's presidential flag bearer. Mule insisting that Kalonzo will not play second fiddle to anyone and will go all the way to the ballot in 2022.
Sisi chama cha Wiper tunajua tumechagua Mheshimiwa Kalonzo Musyoka kwa NDC kule Kasarani, na kinara wa Wiper atakuwa kwa Ndebe, na sisi kama wafuasi wake na wale wafuasi wa chama inaitwa Oka One Kenya Alliance, nataka kuambia Kenya mzima, msikuwe na wasiwasi, hakuna bugudha katika Oka.
Elsewhere, ODM is looking to maintain its dominance in the coast region despite the departure of leaders such as Amason Kingi, who have since formed the Pamoja African Alliance Party.
Mimi namuuliza Amason Kingi, we 2 terms wewe umekuwa minister, 2 terms umekuwa MP of Magarini, uliofanyia nini watu wa Pwani? Uliofanyia nini Waswahili? Uliofanyia nini wa Mijikenda?
Elsewhere, Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kipchumba Murkomen says the ruling party Jubilee has lost its hold in the grassroots, saying UDA is the party to beat in the country. Speaking during a church service at African Inland Church Mumol in Baringo Central, Murkomen urged other Jubilee members who are frustrated in the ruling party to join the new vehicle, which he said is open for all.
Alitufukuza kwa Jubilee mpaka Jubilee yenyewe ilibaki it's unsustainable. Nobody wants to stay in it. Everybody is running away, even those who are yet to join us, because I'm very sure they will join us in the next few days. Nobody is remaining Jubilee.
Meanwhile, National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi has cautioned Meru Senator Mithika Linturi against warming up to the United Democratic Alliance. Muturi argues it is a political suicide to join a party you don't have a hand in founding.
Nataka kukosoa rafiki yangu Linturi. That government, which was a coalition government between URP and TNA, was much more stable and stronger and effective than hii yenye watu walikuja wakarokotwa vyama vyote ikakuwa pahali moja. Si Jubilee imeshambaratika sasa. Kwa hivyo hata hiyo mnatuambia Kiringo, hiyo mnatuambia tuingie watumbebe watu wote muingize pale. Take it, this is what I want to give you I want to give you a challenge. Hii vile wengine sasa wanasema I wish I knew.
Muturi's sentiments came even as a section of young aspirants implored on the youth to seek elective positions. A total of 500 youth across the country have shown interest in vying for elective seats in the 2022 general election.
Ukiangalia tunaona kwamba Nairobi, Nyeri, Bomet na Kiambu ndio wanaongoza katika kwa sasa kwa vijana ambao wamejitokeza kusema kwamba wanataka kuwania nyadhifa mbalimbali. Nyingi za hizo nyadhifa ni zile za MCA.
That is what is happening in our political scene, and being a new week, we're going to be keeping tabs on that, especially Camp Friday at the Kasarani Stadium there. Now we talk about cross-border trade, where the East African Community members will join the much sought African Continental Free Trade Area as a unit and not as individual states. Industrialization Chief Administrative Secretary David Osiani says the move is aimed at promoting respective comparative advantages of each member state and eliminating undue competition within the regional bloc. Cliff Okech reports from Wanza, Tanzania.
The official opening of the 21st edition of the annual Rotational East African Community Trade Fair in Wanza, Tanzania on Sunday provided the leadership of the East African Community Trade Docket with an opportunity to make their proposals clear. The docket wants East African countries to join the proposed African Continental Free Trade Area as a unit to eliminate unhealthy competition from within.
Instead of competing, you need to identify your comparative advantages and see what are you good at in Kenya, what are you good at in Tanzania, what are you good at in Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, South Sudan, and grow these economies of East Africa. And I think that's the way to go.
During the ceremony, there were calls on EAC member states to formulate policies that promote small and medium enterprises to eliminate poverty from the region.
SMEs, for example, in Kenya employs 83% of our total workforce. SMEs contribute 90% to the GDP of the East Africa region. It means that if we do not take the SMEs seriously in our budgets, and intentionally with our resources, then we are not creating the jobs that we may need.
Katika mipango tulionayo ndani ya Tanzania tumekubaliana eneo moja ambalo tutalifanyia kazi ili kuhakikisha tunazalisha ajira za kutosha ni pamoja na kukuza ujuzi. Na huwezi ukapata namna bora ya kukuza ujuzi kama hubadilishani uzoefu na ujuzi kwa ndugu zako ambao uko nao.
Na kwa kweli sio tu Tanzania au Afrika Mashariki, duniani kote kwa sasa ujasiriamali mdogo unachukua nafasi kubwa katika biashara.
And while Kenya is largely regarded as a leader in the region's economic context, Industrialization CAS David Osian says the country stands to benefit immensely from the exhibition.
You learn every day. You're not a tower of knowledge. So when we gather together with our counterparts from other states, we gather to learn, but also to impart knowledge. Because when we are wealthy together, then we are stronger.
This year's theme of the trade fair is promoting quality and innovation to enhance EAC micro, small and medium enterprises' competitiveness and post-COVID-19 recovery. The fair, which began on 2nd December, will run to 12th December with Kenya's Open Day slotted on December 8. Following the official opening of the 21st edition of the East African Community Trade Fair, small and medium enterprises can only hope to reap big by showcasing their prowess in innovation. Reporting from Rock City, Wanza in Tanzania, my name is Wycliffe Okech.
Now from Wanza, Tanzania, we talk about matters of gender-based violence, given that we are still within the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. So where love once flourished, now exists physical and psychological scars. Wamboyo Tene brings you the story of pain and regret, featuring Dan Shihetse Matakaya and Maureen Atieno, both victims of gender-based violence.
As a police officer based at Kisii Police Station, Dan Shihetse Matakaya's life took a drastic turn on September 21st, 2013. While asleep that day, Matakaya alleges his wife poured sulfuric acid on his face, leaving him with multiple burns that have taken a huge toll on his life.
Initially, I never knew it was sulfuric acid. I thought maybe it was maybe cooking oil that has been boiled.
This action, says Matakaya, was triggered by a difference of opinion following the loss of their child.
She had been advised that we needed to have another kid so that she may heal from that loss. But to me, I was so reluctant.
Matakaya's colleagues rescued him and took him to the then Kakamega Provincial Hospital and later to Kenyatta National Hospital.
I was struggling and the doctors saw what I was going through, and then they injected me and left me to sleep. So when I woke up later in the day, I realized that I could not see again.
After hospital, Matakaya followed up the case, which was already in court, but his perpetrator was released on bond, which gave her a window to flee, and her whereabouts have never been known to this day.
She did this and ran away. 2 days later, she surrendered. She surrendered to the police, and she was charged with attempted murder. The case is still pending before court until now.
Matakaya now impacts lives of victims of GBV through his foundation dubbed Dan Shia Foundation. The foundation has, however, been struggling since the pandemic. Similarly, 34-year-old Maureen Atieno went through a similar situation. Maureen says she lost her parents at 12 years of age and was therefore responsible for her siblings. This situation forced her to travel to Nairobi to seek employment to support her siblings who were staying with various relatives. Life in employment was a little harsh for her, and that is when she opted for marriage at the age of 15.
Kosa tu kidogo hivi belt. Sasa unajua alikuwa ananichapa na silimi kulia naye imenishinda. Alisema we ni nani na kuchapa na uwezi lia.
However, staying on into the relationship almost cost her her life.
Nilikuwa nadhani amenichapa na kitu hapa. Iliniwasha nikafanya hivi. Bado damu haitoki. Tena akarudi upande mwingine, tena akafanya hivi. Sasa harakati ya kutembea ndio nilikuwa nasikia kama nyama inanipiga huku. Alikata hii ikaanguka. Alikata hivi, hii ni alama.
She was rushed to hospital. The husband was arrested and was taken to court.
Joseph, chukua mke wako uende ukamtibu na muende nyumbani na mfike salama.
With the release of her husband, Maureen has always been on the move in fear of what her husband will do to her if he knows of her whereabouts.
Nashtukia tu message, ananiandikia, Maureen, ni unajua nilikuona? Mimi naye simjibu. Sasa nilisema, sasa huyu mtu ananiona na mimi simuoni. Siku moja atakuja kuniangamiza hata usiku.
Nyambura Chege, a psychologist and resident counselor at Ngewa House Rehabilitation Center, says that most cases of gender-based violence in marriages are caused by the imbalance in power play by either of the spouses.
They are being monitored, their actions are being monitored, controlled. They feel like they have to be, the relationship has a silencing effect. They feel like they have to be quiet about some things that are happening, or they are told to be quiet.
Victims of GBV recover but can easily get triggered and sometimes end in returning to their abusive partners.
For someone to leave, it takes an average time of 7 times. Okay, so for one person it might be 2 times, and for another person 14 times, so the average is 7 times. And the reason for that is the cycle of abuse.
Valencia Gibera, an advocate of the High Court, advises on what a victim should do.
When you go to the police station, you are able to lodge a complaint with the officers, and they're able to take down your statement, and they're even able to call in the perpetrator or even arrest the perpetrator.
Any remedy for both Matakaya and Maureen?
She can still go to the police and file a complaint with the police, and she can also open a criminal case against her husband with that offense that was committed on a separate occasion. For the man is just to follow up with the police to ensure that this woman has been arrested and brought into court to face the law.
Chief Justice Martha Koome is on record committing the judiciary to a fast-track dispensation of justice for victims of GBV.
The only way to do it is to deal with it firmly. So we are working very closely with all the actors because it needs a multi-agency approach.
The cycle of violence there, where one feels that they need to go back to the person who was still meting out this violence on them because they do not know better. Let's break this cycle as the 16 days of activism against gender violence continue taking shape globally. The culmination is Friday the 10th. We'll keep on just bringing you up to speed with, tales from survivors as well as, stakeholders who are in one way or another helping victims get back to their normal lives after they have survived this. And it starts with you and I. Whether physical or psychological violence, it really doesn't matter. We need to be kind to each other and also kind to ourselves. Crossing over to matters security teams in Wajir County have called on residents to be vigilant against criminal elements during the holiday season. Speaking after holding a security meeting, Deputy Commissioner Habasbweni Sub-County Samuel Mutisia assured residents that his team will work tirelessly to stamp out criminal elements in the area.
Deputy Commissioner Samuel Mutisia urged residents to volunteer information with security agencies to facilitate swift action against insecurity incidences.
What I want to assure Wananchi and what I want to assure everybody is that we are up to the task and we shall have to deliver. We shall have to ensure that there is security for our Wananchi before, during and after this festive period.
Area elders pledged to support the initiative to ensure safety of residents.
Tumeongea na security yetu ambaye tumesema wawe alert wakati wa mvua na wakati huu ambaye ni karibu Christmas, wawe alert na wakilala walale na fiato, wakifaa fiato. Na sisi tukiwa wananchi tuko tayari kusaidia security.
To the counties there, parents and medics dealing with children with special needs in Naivasha, Nakuru County have raised concerns over the unpreparedness of public schools in the county as handling minors, especially with special needs. Led by Ubuntu Life Foundation Jeremiah Courier, the stakeholders faulted the county's or the country's education system for being unfair and skewed against minors with special needs. Noted that public schools lack classes that are friendly to minors with special needs. Here are details of these stories and others that are making headlines within the counties.
Days after the country marked the International Day for People Living with Disabilities, stakeholders in Naivasha have raised concerns over the well-being of minors with special needs. During a walk to fundraise money to buy special medical and learning kits for close to 100 minors from Ubuntu village in Maimahiu, Naivasha, parents and medics of children with special needs noted that public schools do not have classes for the minors with special needs, faulted the country's education system for being unfair and skewed towards them. Elsewhere in Mathioya Vocational Training Institute has received a major boost after a well-wisher from the community, Engineer Wahome Maina, sponsored the mounting of a floodlight worth 2.3 million shillings. The lighting development is expected to boost education standards as well as improve security in the area. Meanwhile, a number of government actors, scholars and professionals in the country are calling on Kenyans to be tolerant as they endeavor to work out any differences that may exist. Speaking during the launch of 2 books titled Move On and Unending Surprises in Marriage by former Cabinet Secretary Jacob Kaimenyi, Chief Justice Martha Koome related the titles of the 2 books with her life, calling on Kenyans to bounce back from any setbacks in order to achieve greatness.
Because for the last 6 months that I'm talking about, I've been through very high moments. I've been thrown to the deep end, I've been thrown to the sharks, I've been thrown to the rhinos, I've been eaten, I've been swallowed and I've been vomited.
In the meantime, the government of Kenya has assured its dedication in its goal to end the gender-based violence in the country. Addressing the press at Eton after the end of 10 kilometers and 5 kilometers road race, Gender CAS Lina Jebi Kilimo noted that the president had directed that the issue of gender-based violence should be put to an end.
That from today there will be a ripple effect on ending GBV, not only in our country, but also globally. Why? Because everyone who runs who appears in the global scene.
In the 94th edition of the annual National Kenya Music and Cultural Festival kicked off on a high note in Mombasa. Dr. Emmanuel Shikuku, the vice chairperson of the Kenya National Cultural Festival, noted that the feat is geared towards empowering the youth. Finally, the India-Kenya Friendship Bikers Rally has been flagged off at Nairobi Gymkhana Club. The rally is part of India's 75 years Amrit Mahotsav celebrations. Westlands MP Tim Wanyonyi underscored the celebration as a way of advocacy for safety of motorbike riders as well as that of pedestrians.
This is a demonstration that we're also advocating for safety for riders on our roads. We are also trying to see that special lanes on our roads are designed and created for safe riding and for people to enjoy riding, whether a bicycle or a motorbike, and even for pedestrians.
To the sporting arena, where former Kenyan Premier League champions Gor Mahia were held to a 1-1 draw by Otoho Dioyo of Congo Brazzaville in the CAF Confederation Cup return leg playoff match played at the Nyayo National Stadium. Following the draw, Otoho advanced to the group stages of the CAF Confederation Cup.
The game started well, with both teams aiming to clinch a win, which would see either of the teams proceed to the group stage. In the early minutes of the first half, AS Otoho took charge of the game and opened the scoring in the 12th minute. Gor Mahia replied quickly and equalized 2 minutes later. Kogalo took charge of the game and made no other mistake, forcing a 1-1 halftime draw. In the second half, both teams wasted a lot of chances, forcing the game a 1-1 full-time score. Daniel Mwendwa, Sport.
In their match there against Kenya Premier League, that is against visitors Vihiga Bullets, in a 3-1 entertaining match league played at the Utalii grounds, Nairobi. Here's a recap.
The Kotino Chargers came into the match aiming to register their fourth consecutive win. The Bankers took the lead through James Mazembe after a costly blunder by Vihiga Bullets custodian. Michael Mutinda doubled the lead for the Bankers. Derek Otanga scored the third goal for KCB to ensure they bagged maximum points. Kevin Sigida scored the consolation goal for the visitors Vihiga Bullets. KCB are now placed third on the log behind Kariobangi Sharks and Kakamega Homeboys.
You can't score all the chances you create. The good thing is that we created. The good thing is that we scored 3 out of the goals we created. So I'm happy as a coach. You don't look backwards. You always look, you always take things positively.
Kitu cha kwanza nimefurahi sababu kulingana saizi ukiangalia nafikiri kuna change kidogo umeona kwenye timu, watu wanaweza kucheza, vijana wako na ile starting point ya kuweza kucheza. Though kidogo nikisema kidogo tu ni game, lakini siwezi kulaumu yoyote, though goalkeeper kidogo amekuwa chini.
Look up on Matters News. Remember, you can get more details on this and other stories on our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke. Now, before we sample what we have on the various dailies, how about we have a sneak peek of how major roads are looking like this 6th of December 2021 with Traffic Marshal A1.
All right, so let's quickly look at how the roads are looking like this morning. Our focus is simply on what is happening along Juja Road, one of those busy roads. And also, when we look at the track record in terms of the different activities or even road reconstructions that have been happening on most of the major roads here in the city, there hasn't been any of that on that specific road. But even at that, still experiences heavy kind of traffic, especially in the early morning hours as well as evening rush hour. So this morning, that is simply going to be our focus. We just want to look at the traffic flow on this specific route, and perhaps we can begin from where the road starts at. This is at that particular roundabout that is just as you leave areas of Outer Ring Road heading all the way to the city center. This is how the roundabout is looking like. Not that bad at all. Obviously, again, one of those major roundabouts there, as it heads over to areas of Thika Superhighway, gets to branch off to our focus this morning, which is Juja Road, as well as the other section or the other side of Outer Ring as you head over to areas or sections along Mombasa Road, and also gets to branch off to the other side of Komarok Road as we head over to the sides of Kangundo Road, which as we speak right now, there's still a lot of activities on that specific route in terms of road reconstruction that is in the areas of Kangundo Road. But this morning, this is our focus. This is actually how Juja Road is looking like this morning. Not really that bad, especially as you leave areas of the roundabout heading over to the city center. But then again, it's very important for me to mention that one of the major reasons as to why there's usually heavy kind of traffic on this particular route is simply because it serves a lot of estates, quite a number of them, as well as small and medium scale businesses just along this particular route, also quite a number of them. So that is one of the major reasons as to why there's usually heavy kind of traffic. But this morning there's none of that, especially as you leave the roundabout heading all the way to the city center, which again simply clearly means that if you're leaving areas of Thika Superhighway and perhaps you do not want to do the heavy traffic on that particular highway, bearing in mind that as we speak also bus rapid transit system is clearly slowly taking shape along that route. So obviously heavy kind of traffic along areas of Thika Superhighway simply means you can use this as one of the alternative routes where you get to branch off to around the Allsops roundabout, coming all the way through Outer Ring Road, using this particular stretch as you head over to the city center, because this is again still how it is looking like. No traffic at all, moving at a very swift pace, and the beauty is that this is actually on both lanes. However, there's a bit of a gridlock just before you get to the Pangani intersection there. That only on that particular stretch or that area is just where there's a bit of a traffic, and also around the areas of the Mlango roundabout as you branch off to areas of Eastleigh on that section, as well as on the other side of Thika Superhighway. Just on these two specific areas, just where there's a bit of a traffic, but at least not really that bad. So clearly you can still use this as one of the alternative routes if at all you're coming to city center, and this is specific to those that are leaving areas of Thika Superhighway. On the other side, as you leave sections of the Pangani intersection, they are also coming to the estates there, still using the same stretch, Juja Road. Not bad at all, moving at a very swift pace. Just as I mentioned, it's only some sections here and there where there's a bit of a traffic, but at least altogether manageable kind of traffic. That is how it is looking like this morning on the roads, trying to keenly focus on how Juja Road is looking like. That is basically our focus this Monday.
Log on to the KBC website at www.kbc.co.ke to get the latest breaking news, entertainment, sports, politics, lifestyle, or business trends from Kenya and around the world. Never miss new episodes from your favorite TV shows, reruns, and movies. Just stream online or watch live on your YouTube channel at KBC Channel 1 TV shows. For the day's biggest stories, trustworthy news, and family entertainment, log on to KBC Channel 1. Watch what you want anytime, anywhere.
The Amazons.
I am his mother and he carries my blood.
But just let me know when you want to meet your son. Would you give me another chance?
But it's too soon to think about
I promise to make you very happy.
You think maybe you could show me a photograph of your sister?
If things continue the way they are, the girls are going to be my whole responsibility.
You've got to show him your capabilities, you hear me?
Bobby is not going to work for me, Roberto.
I'm leaving.
What?
I was brought into your life to destroy you.
Na ukafaulu.
Tunahama wewe.
What? Leo?
No. Sio leo.
Mimi naweza kuvumilia hivyo vituko vyenu kabisa. Na nisiwe na wasiwasi wote. Lakini babake hana hiyo hitaji heshima yake.
Sorry for the disappointment. Uko mtarajiana?
Of course not you.
There's no time for jokes hapa.
Wewe mbona mpropokea mtoto hivi?
Mahabusu wako nenda kawape uhuru wao. Who cares what you think? Are you the boss or am I? Yeah, you're the boss. You're the boss. Listen to me. You have 10 minutes to explain yourself tomorrow. Stop. Okay. How dare you take that attitude with me?
Who do you think you are?
Mama already said we're not allowed to let you in. I wouldn't dare disobey her.
Oh, come on, she was joking with you. Open it for me.
Look, he put this on my finger.
Back, we continue with Good Morning Kenya, and right now we move on to the papers just to see what the dailies have for us. Very quickly, let me run you through the front page of the Daily Nation, starting with the stories here on the header. Mutua launches his manifesto for presidency. Again, just confirming his bid towards running for the top job come August 2022. Machakos governor unveils a campaign platform anchored on 13 pillars. That story has been covered here on page 2. And those 13 pillars, just briefly, are improving quality of life, the youth, manufacturing, universal healthcare, security, integrity and accountability, education. We have infrastructure, social welfare, sports and tourism, ease of doing business, foreign affairs, and the environment, among many other aspects from his official launching of his manifesto that happened yesterday. Moving on to the other stories concerning the COVID-19 jab vaccine uptake, and currently we are only at 10%, and Kenya could miss the target to fully vaccinate 40% by the close of the year, in as much as there has been a notable increase on the number of people who have gotten their vaccines since the announcement by the health CS saying that as of the 21st of December, you will not be able to access government services if you are not fully vaccinated. Now, coming to the main read, This is in regards to what happened this past weekend in Mwingi. It has emerged that there were passengers who paid 50 shillings to board this bus. The 50 shillings doomed Mwingi bus. That story has been covered here on page 7. And according to the accounts of one of the survivors, they say that when the time they were leaving, when they were departing for this journey, there were about 40 in the bus and there were about 10 empty seats. But when they got to this particular bridge, so other passengers came on board and they were annexed to a point where there were 15 that were actually standing. And if that is anything to go by, according to this daily, there could be at least 30 people that are yet to be accounted for from this particular incident that happened. That story has been covered in great detail there on page 7. You can be able to get new information as per what the dailies have today. Coming to the other story, a bit of politics. Why Ruto wants Gachagua for DP. Again, that has been covered here on page 4. With the DP this past weekend saying, I have never seen a meeting this big in Nyeri. Some people had said that we will not be allowed to come here, but this MP of yours really knows how to do his job, and now he could potentially be the running mate for the deputy president. And finally, MPs to refund 2.7 billion illegal housing allowance. That story again has been captured here on page 5, and as a result of the 26 months that MPs had received 6.5 million each when it comes to house accommodation and house allowance, which the Parliamentary Service Commission approved without the approval of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission on the 24th of April 2019, which was backdated for them to receive monies from as of the October of 2018 through to 2020, totaling to 6.5 million each, because they were given a monthly allowance of 250,000 Kenya shillings each. And according to SRC Chief Executive Officer Ann Gitao, she said that the only approved housing benefit is a select group of state officers, which only include the President, the Deputy President, the Chief Justice, Deputy Chief Justice, Governors, Deputy Governors, and Speakers of the County Assembly. So now they have to reimburse these monies in full, which will be deducted from their salaries. That is what the Daily Nation has for us this morning. Doreen.
To the People's Daily, and perhaps you can begin on what happened rather in Maranda High School this during the GMK news brief, but just to give you a bite on perhaps the reason as to why there was this, the dormitory went up in flames in that particular school, even after schools were given that half-term break just the other week. So going by what the PD has highlighted is that in a warning letter allegedly dropped at the staff room, the students had actually threatened to burn the dorm should they be forced to do an internal mock set for this Monday. So that is one of the reasons, just as it has been highlighted by this particular paper as one of the reasons to why the students chose to ban that dormitory there. To a bit of some politics, again, just the same story in regards to what the DP is doing, traversing the country, popularizing his presidential bid there. And this was in Nyeri, where Kahiga said the DP had solutions to problems facing residents of central Kenya and is the best person fit for next year, or come the elections there. And also to that big announcement where the ODM chief now says that this is going to be a national event and everyone is invited that Friday, where all the questions that you have been having as Kenyans or anyone concerning the Azimio la Umoja and perhaps whether he's going to vie for next year's general elections or not, all that will be answered in the Kasarani Stadium come this Friday, as that is being termed as a national event. And also to a bit of some health matters, whereby the government had said that by Christmas they plan to have to have met that 10 million vaccine target, but it looks like that is not quite going to be the case. They are much as it stands. They have vaccinated a total of 7.5 million Kenyans, and this is up from 6.8 million as it was at that time in November 26 when they began that mass vaccination. But again, the ministry still maintains that key services, government services, if at all you're not vaccinated, then you might just miss them. And also part of what is being added to that is that you will not be allowed to use public transport if you are not vaccinated. That is how the PD looks like this morning in regards to some of the stories that have been highlighted. Regina.
Front page of the Standard, matters of moment of truth for Raila supporters. That the date is Friday 10th at the Kasarani Stadium there, where he's going to be clearing doubts about his political stand when it comes to the elections 2022. Critics have said that, well, maybe this is going to be a day that we hear who is going to be casting his net for the president with. That is there going to be a coalition pact with President Kenyatta's Jubilee Party? That is subject to time, and Friday the 10th we will know what is the way forward for ODM leader Raila Odinga. On the other hand, there's also a recap of what happened during the Nyeri tour by Deputy President William Ruto. This is after he garnered support from Nyeri governor there, as well as matters of IEBC. Remember the conversation around, opening of the servers, access to the servers and such. It seems that that particular question has come back to haunt Chebukati. And this comes in the way of a petition that has been made that seeks to revise the Supreme Court orders and bar IEBC boss from holding office. That's just a sneak peek of what we have on the front page of the Standard this morning, including that particular story about that bus that sank there, and 25 bodies so far have been recovered. According to this particular daily brief this morning, the kicker there reads that they sang, praised and prayed for the water level to subside, and when they saw smaller vehicles making it across, they overloaded the bus to add weight onto it and decided to take a risk. That's just an excerpt from what the survivors have had to say in regard to this matter. As the search continues. So far, 25 bodies have been retrieved from River Enzio there. And so much has been said in regard to that matter. For me, it took me back to that Likoni channel crossing where a mother and the daughter perished as, hopeless Kenyans watched and could not do anything. May the souls of the departed continue resting in peace. In as far as matters of, human interests are concerned, given that that weekend has been filled with so much, including the indefinite closure of Maranda High School as well as Rangala Boys there over insecurity and the arrest of a teacher in regard to these particular issues. We've also had the rescue mission that is currently ongoing in Bondo at the Abimbo gold mines there. Kenyans will still practice artisanal mining, and this is quite risky because we do not have the requisite, safety equipment, so to speak. So much has been happening over the weekend that, does not inspire us, for better. And I'd want to draw attention to a story that may actually inspire you this morning. So a man has walked out of jail after 23 years. After 23 years, to the embrace of his two wives. This is a story of Robinson Siko Ogembo, who is now a free man. He walked out of the Bomet GK prisons last Friday, and his two wives and relatives broke into song and dance to welcome him back home. Yes, 23 years, and not only are your wives with you, but they're singing praises and thanking God that you're back home. So this is a story that has been captured on the Standard this morning. Care to have some inspiration that, brighter days are yet to come. He says that he was sentenced to death in 1998 for 2 counts of robbery with violence among 4,000 death row inmates whose sentences were continued to life imprisonment by President Mwai Kibaki in 2009. And he recalled that between 1996 and 1997, their appetite for money had grown, and they operated in Sotik, Liten, Kericho, and Kisii towns, where they orchestrated a series of robberies and sometimes when armed with crude weapons. As he steps out, he says he has made attempts to appeal against the sentence, but it has hit a snag, and he was taken to the committee maximum prison. He says that, well, that committee, it hit him that he was going to die in prison. But in 2009, a gleam of hope appeared through the presidential pardon by President Kibaki, who commuted death sentences of 4,000 inmates who are awaiting execution. He says, this gave me another chance, and I was now allowed to move within the prison and got transfers from one penal institution to another. In 2019, he successfully appealed for his sentence, and the High Court reduced it to a 3-year jail term. That's the story of none other than Robinson Siko Ogembo, who is now a free man. Remember, you can get further details on those stories that have been making headlines in the last 24 hours. They're all available on our website. That is www.kbc.co.ke. And continue streaming. Thank you very much, Tom Wema, who's watching from Nairobi, as well as Jackson Kehara. You never fail to watch this particular broadcast. I leave in the able hands of my colleagues, Jane Wamboi, as well as Traffic Marshal A1, Doreen Arange. I'm Regina Manyara. Pleasant viewing ahead.
Our focus is what is happening along Juja Road. Let's try and see if at all things have changed or the same as how it was. You can remember that earlier on there was barely any kind of heavy traffic on that particular route. So this is again why we're focusing on this stretch. And it also was serving as a very good alternative route, especially for those living areas of Thika Superhighway coming to perhaps the city center. Right now things have changed altogether. Heavy kind of traffic being spotted, especially as you come to CBD on the section of the Mlango roundabout. And this is why I keep saying all the time that traffic changes every single minute. In the 1 minute could be moving at a swift pace, no traffic at all. In the next minute, heavy kind of traffic, just like what you're spotting right now. And this is actually on both lanes. So on this specific route, on both lanes, it simply means as you leave the areas of Ngara, leaving areas of city center, areas of Pangani, as you head over to the estates on this particular stretch, and also leaving the estates, they are coming to the city center, as well as leaving areas of Outer Ring Road, Thika Road, and all those roads that gets to branch off from the major Outer Ring stretch there as you head over to the CBD. This is how it is looking like. Heavy kind of traffic, especially on this particular roundabout, which was actually in fact not even there. A bit of construction just on this particular section is what resulted to this roundabout that we are seeing, but this actually was not in existence. Away from that, coming back the traffic flow, this is still how it's looking like, at least past that particular roundabout. As you come to city center, things are opening up a bit up until the section of the Pangani stretch there. But then again, also this is how the stretch is looking like. One of those busy areas or busy intersections there, especially in this early morning hour. But this is how the section is looking like this morning. Green all through as you leave areas of Thika Superhighway, leaving areas of Ngara as you head over to city center, and also leaving CBD going using this particular section. Now this is why again I said earlier that this could still be a very good alternative route, much as there's a bit of a gridlock on the areas of Eastleigh, First Avenue, on the areas of Mlango roundabout. But away from those areas, coming to the CBD and also leaving city center, going through the same stretches, at least right now moving at a very swift pace, no traffic at all. So again, if you're also leaving areas of Thika Road, knowing very well that the bus rapid transit system is still taking shape on that particular highway and most around major footbridges there, still you can use this. This is the Pangani intersection, branching off to the areas of Pangani as you come to the city center via this particular intersection, which right now is looking very good, no traffic at all. And like I mentioned, this is actually on both lanes of this entire section there. That is how it's looking like at just exactly 10 minutes, the top of the hour. That is how Juja Road is looking like this morning in terms of traffic.
All right, thank you for that, Doreen. Tumeona your roots were slightly showing. It is well, Doreen. Shine on. All right, we now move on to our first conversation for the day. Remember, we are using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. Our official station handle is at KBC Channel 1. My handle is at Jane Wamboy, and we welcome you to be part of this and many other issues that we're going to be talking about today. And right now, we want to focus on the education sector as a whole. In the recent past, we have been seeing a lot happening and a lot being said when it comes to our school, but that aside, let us focus on the institutions of higher learning. We are living in a time where unemployment has become a reality for so many people, and sadly so, the youth are the biggest category that have been affected with the rates of unemployment that we are seeing. But what is facilitating this whole situation? Where could the problem be lying? Today we want to focus on the curricula that is offered in most institutions of higher learning versus the labor market demands. How are they complementing each other, and how are they not complementing each other? And what are the potential solutions that lay ahead to help bring an end, or rather lessen the rates of unemployment that we are seeing, and especially so among the youth today? To help us with this conversation, with us in studio this morning, we have Mr. Alfred Cheriot, who is the Principal Secretary in charge of the State Department of Post-Training and Skill Development in the Ministry of Education. Good morning, sir.
Yes, good morning to you.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, fantastic. Let's just dive straight into it. And, starting by understanding the State Department of Post-Training and Skill Development and the Ministry of Education, what does that represent?
Okay, thank you so much. The State Department for Post-Training and Skills Development is a department just formed specifically by government to address the growing gap between the knowledge for the students, what the students, when they graduate from institutions, there is a gap between the knowledge they have and what the industry expects from the student. So there is that growing gap, which government has taken cognizance of it, and this department was formed specifically to address the issue of the skills gap.
Okay. Yeah. And looking at our country right now, we have always been talking about unemployment for so many years, and it has become a reality for so many people, and especially the youth. What is the status from what you have seen as at State Department?
Of course, there is a huge unemployment in the country. We all know that there is a problem with employment amongst the youth. And one of the contributory factors is actually the skills gap, which we talked about.
Yes.
There is an element of what is the theory the students have when they graduate, when they go to the labor market, they find there is a gap. And at the same time also, those skills they cannot translate into self-employment, because you will find those skills they've never practiced anywhere. So we are here to address that issue, that we provide the skills necessary to be able to transit from learning to earning.
Okay. Yeah. Now, I'd like to look at some of the gaps that have also been identified by so many people that I've been able to interact with. And let's start by looking at the quality of education. And this is comparing public universities and private universities. Many people say that private universities offer a higher quality of education than our public institutions. Why is this so, and how has it actually contributed to this gap in unemployment that we are seeing among the youth?
I'm not sure if that is accurate, because you find the lecturers who are teaching in universities, private and public universities, are the same lecturers. Yeah. So the issue of quality does not arise. And I want to say, in fact, despite all the unemployment you have, the Kenyan graduates are still among the best in the world.
Yes.
So it's not actually true, even though we still aspire to have more competent graduates, but I want to say our graduates are of the standard, required standard.
All right. Okay. So you do not agree with this narrative that private institutions offer higher quality of education than public?
I have not seen it anywhere. I've worked with those who come from public universities and private universities, and they carry similar knowledge.
All right. Yeah. Okay, now let's talk a bit about the question of brain drain, which I'd like to hear from you, and what you have seen as a State Department, because we have, over the years, brain drain has always been a problem that contributes to also the lack of skilled labor in the market versus what is actually required and what we are offering. Is that still a problem that we are seeing in this day and time?
Of course, the development of every country, every nation, it depends on the skilled labor. And when we have a situation where there's brain drain, obviously our economy will suffer. So we are addressing those things. I'm sure the government, you've seen the efforts being done by government to ensure that we retain our labor. Of course, it's a plus if our graduates are taken to other countries to work in other countries, meaning they have higher quality, but they are preferred. So we know there's that issue of unemployment, and we are doing everything possible to address so that we do not have graduates moving to other countries to work from, because they lack employment here in the country.
Okay. Yeah. Now, when it comes to funding for our tertiary institutions, colleges and universities, as we know it, health, education, and of course the defense are some of the ministries that actually got the biggest chunk of funding in this particular financial year. But just looking at this particular daily today, here at the back page, we have a story concerning how universities are drowning in debt as funding continues to drop. And they actually go on to say that public universities are struggling to stay afloat due to the shrinking funding from the government, a situation that has caused so many lecturers to down their tools. That is the story that has been featured here on this particular daily. When it comes to funding, how is it a problem when it comes to our institutions of higher learning, and to what extent has it contributed to this rate of unemployment that we are seeing?
Of course, the education sector takes almost a third of the national budget. And the reason why we're having this challenge within institutions is because of the growing numbers. The exponential growth among the students enrolling in universities is moving at a higher pace as compared to the resources being allocated. So we as a ministry will find ourselves, we might be going in the region of 40% of the national budget to fund education. So that's why we are looking at ways of diversifying, moving students to other institutions like TVETs, so that we don't have everybody going for university training. Yeah.
Now, let's come back to now the courses that are offered in institutions of higher learning. We have seen so many people doing so many courses. Once they're done, they go out there. People tarmac, say, for 6-5 years because they cannot find a job within the area they have studied. Could there be a problem with the courses that are being offered in our institutions?
What is happening is, and that's why the State Department has come out strongly to insist that the institution might establish an Office of the Career Services, because you will find students enroll for courses which they hardly have information about. Now, down the line, they find these courses, the courses they took or they trained on do not lead them to meaningful employment. So that should be something we are addressing, and already a number of institutions have set up these offices for purpose of guiding the students on what courses to take. Yeah.
And that brings also the question of standardizing the curricula. Is that also contributing to this, let's call them redundant courses that are being offered in some of these institutions?
First of all, let's address this issue. You know, when you go for a university, you are not going there purposely for employment, but actually to equip you with knowledge. What you will do with the knowledge is up to you. If you are looking for the job and you have the right skills, so be it. If you need the knowledge so that you can be able to work in a much better way, to be able to be a good entrepreneur, that is what you require. In terms of careers or curriculum, as you are aware, the government also established a new department within the ministry to specifically for curriculum reforms. And there is being informed by the need that curricula has to be reviewed so that it suits the labor market. Yes.
All right. Now, remember, this conversation is all about understanding the current labor market versus the curricula that is offered in our institutions of higher learning. Most of us have gone through, and especially the biggest chunk of the youth that are unemployed today, have gone through the 844 system of education. What were the gaps that were there that have contributed to the current situation that we are seeing? And is CBC a potential long-term solution when it comes to alleviating this problem, when it comes to the labor market versus the skills that are imparted in our institutions of higher learning? We take a very quick break. I will be back to continue with this discussion. We welcome you to share with us your thoughts. We'll be addressing them in a bit. Stay with us.
mother and he carries my blood.
But just let me know when you want to meet your son. Would you give me another chance?
But it's too soon to think about
I promise to make you very happy.
You think maybe you could show me a photograph of your sister?
If things continue the way they are, the girls are going to be my whole responsibility.
You've got to show him your capabilities, you hear me?
Bobby is not going to work for me, Roberto.
I'm leaving.
What?
Kitut FM Gigosin
98.0 Kitwek FM Kigosin. Ili kupata sikiza tuni hii, Isaiah chapter 40 verse 8, bonyeza star 811 star 963 hash.
Wakati mwingine unaweza kujipata umefinywa pande zote na unaona kama shida yako ni kubwa sana, kama hakuna nguvu ambazo zaweza kuitatua, lakini ni vyema kujua kwamba kuna Mungu mwenye nguvu na ambaye hachoki kamwe. Isaia mlango wa 40 mstari wa 8 inasema, "Je, wewe hukujua? Hukusikia? Yeye Mungu wa milele, Bwana muumba miisho ya dunia, hazimii wala hachoki."
Ili kupata sikiza tuni hii, Isaiah chapter 40 verse 8, bonyeza star 811 star 963 hash.
Welcome back. We are glad you are still keeping us company. And in case you are just joining us, karibu tena sana. This is Good Morning Kenya. I am Jane Mamboy. We appreciate those of you who have already checked in via our social media platforms. Naona mtu anajita hapo The Professor. Thank you so much for tuning in. Jared Mbui, as always. Omar Hassan, thank you for being with us this morning. Richard Mohia Boro, thank you for tuning in. We have CK Ikiha, I hope I've pronounced that right. Thank you for being with us, as well as Kiplagat Kitur. We appreciate you for being with us this fine Monday morning. We welcome you to be part of this conversation. Remember, we are focusing on our education sector as a whole and just trying to understand why the curricula and the labor market are not working together as we hope they would, and what are the potential solutions that we can bring into play to help bring down this lack of mismatch that we are seeing, and consequently bring down the rates of unemployment. With us in studio once again is Alfred Cheriot, who's the Principal Secretary in charge of the State Department for Post-Training and Skill Development under the Ministry of Education. Thank you so much for continuing to be with us, sir. Now, we pick up from where we left up and still are focusing on our institutions of higher learning, and the question of resources and infrastructure comes into play. How is this a contributing factor to this mismatch that we are seeing?
The resources actually would inform the quality of every service you are providing.
Yes.
Whereas when there is a shortage of resources, probably everything will be strained. Mm-hmm. And I want to say again, because of the sheer numbers, you will find that the resources can never be enough. Mm-hmm. It will always be a shortage of resources. But the government is doing everything possible. You know, you've injected a lot of resources to ensure that the sector does not suffer. Mm-hmm. We get resources, additional funding. We had the other day, the government is putting up construction of extra classrooms to accommodate the students.
Yes.
So the government actually is doing everything possible to ensure that all resources are availed for our children to be able to learn and get the right knowledge.
All right. And also comes in, and looking still at the aspect of resources, comes in the lecturers that are mostly in these institutions of higher learning. We have seen so many times most of them going on strike, which is actually one of the reasons that have actually been put here on the dailies. The fact that they are not also feeling appreciated or paid enough in order to undertake the responsibilities that is placed on them. What are your thoughts on that?
I want to say about salaries that nobody gets enough salary. I'm sure even you, Jane, you'll always want more salary.
Yes.
So that is a labor issue which we are between the institutions and the lecturers. It's something I cannot discuss because I don't have the details and how much they're earning, how much they expect to earn. But all I know is that nobody in the world has been given sufficient salary.
No one in the world has been given sufficient salary.
Nobody.
All right. Now, let's flip the point of conversation, focus on now the students in these institutions of higher learning. We have seen for a long time that the younger population have a certain perception around TVET institutions and the courses that are offered there. Is this also one of the reasons that has contributed to this mismatch that we are seeing in the current market?
The TVET institutions or the tertiary institutions, those ones, the mid-level institutions actually, should be, that is where you expect the best skills. But this perception that you must have a degree, when in fact you would go to a TVET institution and get more skills, you would earn you more revenue or earning more money, but you will find everybody goes for a degree when in fact could do well in a TVET institution. Yes.
And that is a problem that needs to also be addressed when you look at the youth.
Yes.
All right.
That is one of the problems we have, but we've been doing everything possible to discuss with the youth, to show them there is a path. Even when you go to a TVET institution, you still land at the university level.
You still go at the university. And also when it comes to, I know you had touched a bit about this, when looking at the infrastructures themselves in terms of funding in order to ensure that we have more institutions across the country to accommodate the students where they are. Is this something that is also, one of the drivers as to this mismatch that we are seeing? And especially looking at the mashinani areas?
I wouldn't attribute it to classrooms as such. But maybe we need to work closely with the industry to understand what are the expectations of the industry. Because we could be busy in the ministry providing education, but when the graduates come out, they find what the skill set they have does not match the needs of the industry.
Yes.
And that is something that is why we are intending to have a conference where with all the stakeholders, we expect the governments, private sector, development partners to be able to, we meet and we discuss. Then we'll be able to understand where the mismatch comes from.
All right. Yeah. And speaking of this conference, it will be running from the 7th through to the 9th. And the theme of the conference is Enhancing Graduate Employability. How practical is this going to be, looking at this 3-day engagement that will be happening?
We have to start from somewhere. First of all, as government and as ministry, we have got to understand what do we need to do with our curriculum so that when the graduates come out, they can fit in the labor market quite easily, seamlessly. And that is why we have to start from that point. We have to listen to the industry, what they expect. You realize also the traditional jobs. Probably the current curricula addresses the traditional jobs.
Yes.
But the labor market, now the opportunities are different. And that is where the mismatch now comes in, because you'll find probably, let's use some of an accountant, the ledger or whatever. I don't know, in the new markets, what do you do? Do you still work the same way or just change?
All right.
And those are the issues we want to hear from the partners and the private sector.
And what is the relationship like, looking at this public-private partnerships, looking at the education sector? Because again, borrowing from this particular piece here, it goes on to say that there has been a debate on whether the government should stop funding students placed in private universities, arguing that this is veering off the focus that was initially there when it comes to government and public universities. How is the relationship, looking at the stakeholders that come into play?
Of course, we have private investors who have put up institutions which is actually assisting the government a lot. And that student who is learning in a private university is a Kenyan student. That student merits scholarship,
yes,
like funding by government, just like any other student. So I think what the government is doing is just to send students to those universities with an agreement with the university. But it doesn't mean we should never fund a student who is learning undertaking a course in a private university. Yes.
And what do you make of these critics who argue that we shouldn't have introduced a whole new curriculum? Looking at the CBC curriculum, we should have just relooked at the 844, given it hasn't really had reforms made over the years since when it was instituted over 35 years ago. We should have looked at those gaps that were there, as opposed to bringing a whole new curriculum into place. And they want us to revert back to 844.
What I want to say about education is not a competition. No student is taken to school to fail. And the issue of grading students, that this one is passed better than the other one, should not arise.
Yes.
Why should we give a certificate anyway, if that certificate does not have any meaning? What CBC is doing is that everybody must qualify. Now, what is the difference here is one will be faster in understanding, getting the skill set. The other one will be moving much slower, but eventually will also qualify. That is why when you go even a driving school, it doesn't mean you become first-class driver, another one second class, that kind of thing. You have to be competent enough to be able to perform the job. And that is what CBC is geared towards.
All right.
Yeah.
And looking at the digitization aspect, we are moving in a time where everything is shifting to the technological space. I mean, the pandemic moved so many people from the traditional offices or the traditional way of doing things onto the online platform. How is this going to be factored in during this conference that will be happening to ensure that it's part of the changes, the reforms that are coming to ensure that mismatch is no longer an issue that we are dealing with?
Of course, the pandemic brought a new reality, and we have to also respond to it. That's why we have to look at curricular reforms so that we understand now that students may not necessarily sit in a classroom, but they could be sitting at home. But we have to look at how does it affect the students. Was the whole idea of bringing a child to a school, was it only about to learn or to acquire the knowledge from the books, or the other skill set a student would acquire by interacting with others?
Okay.
So we have to look at all those things. How does this new reality affects the education sector? And we have to hear from the private sector also how it affects them. Do we train the student to be able to work virtually? Do they also accept to have people working virtually? What do we do?
Okay.
So those are the many questions we'll want to get when I hope you'll be at the conference to be able to get much more about this.
We hope to be there.
Yes.
But now looking at the employer who is at the end of this particular chain, they also want value for their money. And they are dealing with the same breed that, looking at the 8 for the biggest chunk is those who are already out. They are now with that population, but they also want value for their money. How can they be brought into this whole conversation as part of the value chain to ensure a better future, even for those that are not yet there?
Yes, that is why we have this Department of Post-Training and Skills Development to address the gap between the existing graduates, the ones you are describing, the ones who are the 844 chunk.
Yes.
Who have skill sets which do not necessarily meet the market needs. Probably the expectation of the industry varies from what they possess. So we are here as to also to close that gap, taking them through trainings, short-term courses to be able to convert them to somebody who can work seamlessly, join the labor market seamlessly.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we're also having those that are already in the labor market, but they are experiencing what we call underemployment because of being in the same level of education over the years, doing the same job in the same market, and yet the market is evolving. Are they also part of who you are looking to address when it comes to this mismatch that we're also seeing already in the labor market?
Of course, someone getting underemployed is because actually of the lack of skills. Because you will find somebody who will have to compromise and probably take up a much lower grade employment. And it's because of the skill set. But any competent person can never be underemployed. That one I can confirm.
Any competent person can never be underemployed.
Yes.
And what responsibility do you now, as an individual, as Mr. Alfred Cheriot, place on those that are already in the labor market when it comes to sharpening and improving their own skills to better their opportunities when it comes to the competition out there in the market?
Yes, of course, labor market changes. The needs of the industry changes from then. And for one to remain relevant, you have to skill and reskill and train all the time to be able to move with the changing trends in the labor market. Yes.
All right. Now, as we bring this conversation to a close, maybe just looking at those that have a role to play in this whole conversation, looking at this mismatch and, of course, the labor market, what efforts can they bring onto the table? And maybe you can even tell us some of those stakeholders that you find vital to this conversation when bringing our hands together, bringing our efforts together to ensure that we are moving forward together and not leaving one part of the value chain behind.
We're working well with the industry. That one we have labor, the Department of Labor. We are working with the private sector, the Chuakali Association. By the way, Chuakali Association, to many people, the perception is different. But I want to confirm to you that we have very many skilled people in that sector who have very good innovation skills, and they drive the economy. So it's a very vital sector. We work together. We work the KBC, Kenya Private Sector Association. We have with all these organizations, we work together to ensure that what we are doing is relevant to their needs.
All right.
Yeah.
And what of the responsibilities that has been placed on both the national government and the county governments?
Of course, education belongs to the national government, but there are those roles which are performed by the government, like the early learning, the early learning that is ECD. You'll find those ones are domiciled in counties. But eventually, once they move from ECD, they join primary level, now it becomes now a national entity. Yeah.
All right. So by the time this conference comes to an end, what should we expect as a population moving forward in line with this whole mismatch that we are seeing in terms of the solutions that we are hoping to get?
Yes, we are looking at the solutions. But the solutions we have already, are they the right solutions? That is why we have to have this conference, so that as we work on the solutions, we know these are solutions which will address the skills mismatch. As we come up with short-term training, skilled, tailored programs, are they going to address the needs of that young person to be able to be employable?
And how can the common mwananchi be part of this whole conversation in line with their individual experiences, saying, you know, I went to school, I studied this, we did not have this particular infrastructure, we were only taught this by the books, but when I got there, I found a camera. I had never seen a camera before. How can they channel such concerns to ensure that as a State Department, you are able to take note and offer a solution moving forward?
Yes, we work with the private sector to be able to expose them to those equipments. If they have never seen it before, we should be able to expose them, taking them through short-term programs. To probably would call it something similar to an internship, to be able to get exposed to these equipments. If it's a camera, should be able to handle it. If it's particular equipment, to be able to know how to operate it, so that once they get out to the labor market, not only that, they have not only studied, but they have already experienced it.
All right. Yeah. And channels for public participation in line with this conference?
Yes. Public participation, this conference is open to the public, but we know everybody, but we have put also, we can follow it virtually.
Yes.
So we have made also to be possible so that everybody can participate. We know also the issue of social distancing and rest. So we encourage members to be able to, those who want to follow, they can follow through the virtual means and many other live programs.
All right.
Okay.
And as we close, maybe what is your call to action message, generally speaking, looking at your department when it comes to post-training and skill development as a whole?
Post-training and skills development, I want to ask members of the public to know that this department addressing the skills gap between the youth graduating from an institution and the needs of the labor market. And we are working on country-wide programs to be able to address the needs. We'll be going down to counties to be able to address in those areas, because we know everybody cannot be here in Nairobi, but we have to move across the country to ensure that we roll programs which help the youth to be employable.
All right. Okay. Now, as we get to bring this conversation to a close, there's some feedback that I was able to get yesterday from a few colleagues that I reached out to in line with this discussion. Let me just pull them out very briefly, and maybe you could just tell us what you make of this when it comes to the mismatch that we are seeing there. And one issue that was brought up, and this was a student who was in university, and they say that the absence of student loans is a problem that has brought about this mismatch that we are seeing. Is this something that you can say is a valid concern?
I don't know the knowledge in the student loan, how it's related. Probably in terms of the student loan
being facilitated to go through the training is what is the problem, the lacking those loans.
I cannot confirm that is the situation, but you may find that student A is lacking the skills, student B has the skills.
Okay.
So, and probably both of them will access similar loans. So it's not something actually can attribute to the minimum amount they're given.
All right. Yeah. Another issue that they brought up was frequent student unrest, which consequently disrupt the curriculum, which consequently makes them lag behind in line with the demands of the labor market.
Okay, history has told us that the student unrest is informed by pressure, especially when the exams are nearing. We expect this unrest in schools, and this is due to tension. You've seen schools being banned. Then it's not something new. We've had it over time. Students banning schools. It's just probably to release some kind of pressure. But you cannot say it is due to a particular issue. But probably it's a human behavior. They want to find ways of finding their energy and all that.
All right. Yeah. And finally, one last one that came up, and this is particularly from someone who was, I will not mention the institution, but they just recently graduated. They say denied opportunities because they do not have the experiences that the labor demands that they have when they're coming out of school.
Yes, the institutions, of course, if it's private institution would want somebody who can produce immediately on employment.
Yes.
But within government, we cannot discriminate along those lines. But for private institutions, everybody is encouraged to take up as a deserving employee and train accordingly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, this is the conference that will be happening from the 7th up until the 9th of December, just addressing the mismatch that is there when it comes to the curricula and the demands of the labor market, seeing how these two can be brought closer together to ensure that we bring down the rates of unemployment that we are seeing, and especially so among the youths who are aged between 20 and 29. Looking at that age gap there, they are the ones that are heavily affected with high unemployment rates. We have been speaking with Mr. Alfred Cheriot. He is the Principal Secretary in charge of the State Department for Post-Training and Skill Development in the Ministry of Education. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us today.
Thank you.
We appreciate the time.
All right, thank you.
All right, we appreciate for the feedback that you've sent through, but we are not yet done with Good Morning Kenya. Do stay with us. More after this break.
Okay.
In the quiet corners of this crowded slum, Kibera, 17-year-old Anne Mwende, not her real name, has been forced into adulthood with responsibilities beyond her years.
Nilikuwa na uhusiano wa boyfriend after kumaliza class 8 ndo kapata ball.
Pregnancy denied her enjoyment of her teen life.
Nilijua masomo yangu imeisha hivyo. Sitaienda tena. Nikasema hivyo tu ndo vile imeisha. Sasa vile nimepata ball zilipua fi.
Her life took a U-turn.
Nikaona hope maisha yangu itachange.
She was prepared for the worst anyway.
Mimi Kenya tunasema nirudi shule, nimalize shule, then nitafute job ama nisome kitu yenye naweza fanya.
Her mother is supportive of her dreams, but she tells me the community will never let her be.
Watu ukaa chini, wana discuss maisha yako. Like sema, hivyo ndo vile maisha yangu imeisha, stai kaa tena na wasichana wengine wadogo, nishakuwa mama.
Anne is remorseful for her actions, and all she appeals for is a second chance in life.
Sitarudia mama, anilipie tu fee nimalize. Sitarudia kosa kama hilo, nisha learn lesson. Sizifanya kitu kama hiyo tena.
Life has not been easy either for Anastasia Akelo, not her real name. She lives in Kisumu Ndogo in Kibera slums, Nairobi. She is 16 and already has a 6-month-old son.
I gave birth on the 30th of November last year. I had a relationship with a young guy who was in college. And that time I had joined Form 1 on that 3rd month.
The obtaining situation forced her to drop out of school.
I told him first, but he didn't understand me. He was just wanted me to just about the baby because he was not financially stable. And my mom didn't want to see me at that time too.
Anastasia says she is struggling to feed her child every day.
I can't see my life again. Yeah. And sometimes I would wish if my father would be alive, maybe he would support me in life. Yeah. And I didn't expect to give birth at this age.
I wanted one day to become someone important in life.
Anastasia's neighbor, Beatrice Allo, is 20. She has a 5-year-old son. She gave birth at the age of 15.
Maisha kaanza kuwa ngumu. Au marafiki zangu pia wakanitoroka. Wenye nilikuwa nao wazazi wao wakasema wasitembee na mimi, nimepata mimba na bado mimi ni mdogo na bado niko shule. So hata pia mwenyewe nilikuwa naogopa hata kutembea nao. Najificha tu kwa nyumba. So hata kueleza wazazi wangu ilikuwa yani kuwafia hata kuambia kitu nataka ilikuwa shida. Sasa mzazi wangu babangu sana alikuwa mkali sana.
It's often described as the most changing experience that a woman can have, but for Beatrice, motherhood may have come too soon.
So ilikuwa ngumu, niko tu kwa nyumba peke yangu. So ikafika siku nienda kuzaa. Hiyo kwenda kuzaa nikazaa na operation, so shida ilikuwa ngumu. Hakuna mtu akushughulikia mtoto. Mama wangu saa nyingine anaenda hizi kazi za kufua, anarudi anishughulikie.
She will never regret these tender moments with her son, but Beatrice may long for the care for a young girl like her.
Nikajikubali, nikakuja nikamwambia mama wangu, nimekubali mtoto ni wangu. Hata kama watu watanitusi, nitajikubali. Meya anaona nitusi hata kama ni mwanaume ananitolewa kwa sababu niko na mtoto, nimekubali nitakaa na mtoto wangu. As long as nimeshakubali mimi ni mama, nitaishi na mtoto wangu, struggle na yeye.
Discrimination and stigma meted upon teen mothers, for instance, cost the future of this middle-aged woman, Judith Shitabule. She was 16 when she discovered she was pregnant with her first child.
Sasa ikabidi tu mamangu ndiye ameshughulika kila kitu. Then mimi conscience yangu naambia na sini fulani alinidraga kanifanyia hivi, I'll just go back to him. Mimi nikaenda kumtafuta wakati sasa nimekuwa na afya njema, sasa mtoto hata ameanza kukaa. Kaenda kumtafuta, nikamuuliza wewe, na vile nilifika tu hivi akaniambia I'm sorry, nilifanya vibaya, but I want my child.
Shitabule's ambition of becoming a nurse evaporated.
Mimi ndio huyu huku, mimba ndio hiyo, mimi naona tu tumbo imegrow, lakini sijajua ni so my neighbors wale wa nyumbani sasa, na unajua wote tu ni relatives, wakasema aku mtoto sangeenda tu university, na unajua sasa ni vile my family is ile humble background, sasa wangeweza hata kunipeleka hiyo parallel.
Social consequences for pregnant adolescents may include stigma, rejection or violence. This may well jeopardize girls' future education.
It should not be the end ya maisha ya mtu. Inazima tu ufocus na ujue tu ni nini ulitaka. Unajua vitu mingi zimeweza kuwaste hata wa mama wengi, ni kwamba sasa kama mimi vile nilizaa mapema, ikabidi niolewe mapema, na ikabidi tena nitoke huko. Kitu yenye huwa inapoteza watu wengi, wakishatoka huko wanaona tena wapate bwana mwingine.
According to the World Health Organization, pregnancy and childbirth complications are the leading cause of death among girls aged 15 to 19 years globally, with low and middle income countries accounting for 99% of global maternal deaths of women aged 15 to 49 years. However, a team from the Polycom Development Organization in Kibera is leading a campaign to raise awareness about teenage pregnancy and family planning.
We have so many girls, teenage girls, who have become pregnant in this community, and the COVID situation worsened it because many kids were at home, and because most of their parents lost their jobs and everybody was at home, then the small house becomes too congested for everybody. So most of them would seek for places to feel free, and mostly they got into men's houses, mostly men who were single, and they became pregnant.
Jen Anyango, the Polycom team leader, laments that some families refuse to break with tradition, making their work difficult.
If these kids are not protected, they're going to have more kids. Because some of them have had their kids because, in exchange for something.
People from slums like this one are more likely to have children at their younger age. This not only cuts into their own incomes, but also earning potential of their country.
The government should own up. The girls even go for their, we call it prenatal clinics. So from there, the support should be there until they are adults.
The World Health Organization estimates that about 21 million girls aged between 15 and 19 years in developing regions become pregnant every year, and approximately 12 million of them give birth. Adolescents who may want to avoid pregnancies may not be able to do so due to knowledge gaps and misconceptions on where to obtain contraceptive methods and how to use them.
The few cases are among the growing statistics of teenage mothers whose destinies have gone down the drain. Stigma is playing a greater role in destroying the future of these girls. Where will the help come from? Purity Musel in Kibera, Nairobi County.
Who cares what you think? Are you the boss or am I? Yeah, you're the boss. You're the boss. Listen to me. You have 10 minutes to explain yourself tomorrow. Stop. Okay. How dare you take that attitude with me?
Who do you think you are?
Mom already said we're not allowed to let you in. I wouldn't dare disobey her.
Oh, come on, she was joking with you. Open it for me.
Look, he put this on my finger.
Log on to the KBC website at www.kbc.co.ke to get the latest breaking news, entertainment, sports, politics, lifestyle or business trends from Kenya and around the world. Never miss new episodes from your favorite TV shows, reruns and movies. Just stream online or watch live on your YouTube channel at KBC Channel 1 TV shows. For the day's biggest stories, trustworthy news and family entertainment, log on to KBC Channel 1. Watch what you want anytime, anywhere.
Abantu ba Mintombo Yamore. Your favorite Ekegusi station, Minto FM, is now at your doorstep. Enjoy the hottest Kisi music, informative and entertaining shows, and reliable news only on Minto FM. Tune in to Minto FM on 91.7 FM in Nyamira, Kisii, and its environs. Minto FM in Nyamira.
They look through the gaping holes of a structure that is almost collapsing. All this just to quench their thirst for basic education. This is Ranch Primary School in Ganze constituency, located 160 kilometers west of Kilifi town. Children as young as 6 years old wake up as early as 4 a.m. and barefooted walk to school, crossing paths with snakes and elephants.
Kwa nyumbani saa 11 nafika hapa 6:45. Mara zingine watu tunakutana na ndovu pale njiani.
Natoka kijiji cha Madamani, natoka saa 10 kuja shuleni. Jana natoka saa 6. Narudi saa 7:20. Kuja najafika pale barabarani nikakutana na ndovu wawili. Nilirudi nyumbani kwenda kumuita babangu. Najafika hapo wamepita wameenda hivi.
At school, they sit on traditional mats, commonly referred to as makuti.
Naomba mtulete madawati, maji, chakula. Kwa wengine tunawaona hapa nyoka. Wanajificha huko kwenye makuti huko.
The gaping holes on the hanging rooms are often used as escaping routes whenever snakes are spotted in classrooms.
Maeneo ambayo nyoka wanapatikana kwa wingi sana kwa sababu ni maeneo ambayo yako na joto.
They will stay in school till evening many a times on empty stomachs.
Mambo ya chakula nayo pia ni shida. Naweza mtoto naweza kula halafu asubuhi akawa hatapata chakula. Akaja hiyo shuleni wala wakati wengine naambiwa shida kwa mtoto wako analala shule sababu ya njaa.
Since the school cannot provide lunch, some cook in the bushes to avoid the treacherous journey back home.
Pick up. Wale ambao hawakuchanga. Si kama marafiki sisi tunawaita tunakuja kula pamoja. Halafu tukimaliza tunaenda darasani.
Area Member of Parliament Atedi Mwambire sheds tears as he listens to pupils narrate their plight and plead with the government and other well-wishers to come to their aid.
Shule kama hii hapa ndani ya Ganza niko na shule takriban 40 ambako siko hali hii. Na ni jambo la kusikitisha kwa sababu mimi na takriban shule za msingi 165.
Using the National Government Constituency Development Fund, they have launched the construction of 3 new permanent classrooms expected to be completed in a month's time.
Kuna muhimu Wizara ya Elimu iweze kushirikiana na serikali kufikia mwito wa rais wa kusema kwamba njaa ni janga la kitaifa, waweze kuanzisha tena ule muradi wa chakula mashuleni, chakula cha mchana mashuleni. Nafikiri ukifanyika mambo kama hayo itakuwa ni rahisi.
The school, which has 238 pupils with 6 teachers, is said to be among the best performing schools in Ganze sub-county, having emerged number 10 out of the more than 160 schools in the sub-county and number 6 in the zone in the Kenya Certificate of Primary Education, KCPE.
Kwa hivyo kwa sababu ya huo upungufu tunatumia hiyo system ya shifting. Wale wanakuja asubuhi alafu wengine wanakuja mchana. Kuna upungufu pia wa vyoo. Hii shule ni kama ambaye haina vyoo. Choo kimoja cha wasichana kiko pale na kile cha wavulana ni lile shimo ambalo sasa linataka kufunikwa ili kiweze kuwasaidia wale wavulana.
They're now calling on well-wishers to have them build more classrooms, construct desks, water tanks and other amenities. For Lunchtime News, I'm Sarafina Robi.
Turkana County lies in the northwestern part of Kenya. It has one of the most expansive landscape in the country, with a population of about 1 million people, according to the 2019 census report. The county boasts of breathtaking landscapes, with Great Plains hedged in by scenic hills, such as the Kabokorit, that we attempted scaling for a breathtaking view of Kakuma town at sunset. Turkana people have a special way of welcoming guests. Complete with melodic song and dance, the women carry the guests around their homestead as a sign of honor and friendship. The Turkana community is so hospitable that often a goat will be slaughtered in the village for the guests to feast on alongside their host. However, as you stroll in the towns or even in the rural areas, you'll notice something striking. Men holding a special stool, the ekicholong. It is a special multi-purpose for ensuring the comfort of its owner wherever he goes.
Hii nikifika mahali popote kama sasa tukikaa hapa hivi nyinyi mkiangaika mahali pa kukaa nyinyi mnakaa kwa kiti. So I'm much comfortable.
Ekicholong signifies the attainment of a certain status in society.
Sasa yule huyu kama hajafanywa ya asafan hata kalia kiti yangu, hata kama ni mkubwa zaidi yangu, kama mimi ni mdogo yake na nimefanywa asafan hata kalia kiti yangu.
Under a tree at Tarach village in Kakuma, we encountered these two elderly men napping away blissfully. At a closer look, we found they were resting their neck on the ekicholong. Ours is not to interrupt their afternoon relaxation. We are told they deal with conflict resolution and are awaiting any cases that may arise from this village on this day. At this point, the question lingering on our minds was, just how comfortable is this seat?
Inakaa tu mzuri. Kwa sababu unashimba paka akae mzuri, ukapopile kikaa inakaa tu mzuri. Hauwezi kisikia mbaya.
Women are not allowed to sit on or even hold the ekicholong.
Hii ni tradition yetu ya Turkana. Hakuna mwanamke anaruhusiwa kushika hii kitu. Ni mwanaume tu peke yake. Sababu mwanamke uzi kuja ukaa mbele yangu na hii kiti. Sitting arrangement yako kwanza hayataruhusu.
Mtoto kwanza mtoto atakani ama timu nyingine kama umeoa rasmi alafu timu nyingine yakalie mpaka afanye hiyo rituals. Lete mbuzi atakaze hiyo kiti.
Additionally, if you're not of the same age group through marriage or an initiation ceremony known as the asapan, you're not allowed to sit on another person's ekicholong. The Turkana community believes that such a breach is taboo and should never happen, but in case it happens, it can only be reversed through a special cleansing ritual.
Ndio sana anatoa mbuzi, anaongoa hiyo mbuzi, anatoa kinyesi, anasimea hapa juu. Hiyo inamaanisha kwa yeye alifunja amri. Yeye alifunja amri kalia kiti ya mtu msima mwenye amefanywa mela kubwa. Mwenye amefanywa mela kubwa.
Another striking thing about ekicholong is how one is required to wipe evidence after a sitting.
Ikikaa hivi, ukitaka kuamuka, nafanya hivi. Naanza kwenda. Ikisahau kupangusa, kuna mtu ile kuna maana wewe, kuna rombaya na wewe. Nitakuja kupata hiyo kitu unakaa hivyo. Inachukua unapeleka kwa choo ama unapeleka kwa mali ya moto. Sasa kupeleka kwa moto. Sasa mimi hapa naingia kitu kingine hapa. Ile nakaa kama doidoi.
The Turkana is undisputedly one of the communities whose traditions have remained untouched despite the wheels of modernization. They have held on to their beliefs, just as the men hold on to the ekicholong for comfort, status, and rest, wherever the day takes them. Nancy Okwari, reporting from Kakuma, Turkana County.
Our day begins at the Kenya Forest Service headquarters in the Karura Forest. A briefing on the day's program by the service's Chief Conservator Julius Kamau before we embark on the journey. Our destination, the Embabut Forest Reserve. This jungle boasts over 21,000 hectares of forest land and is a vital water tower for communities living upstream and downstream. Kenya Forest Service has made steady and successful efforts in reclaiming chunks of land here from illegal settlers and armed cattle rustlers using this as a hideout. Despite this, the forest still faces a risk of reinvasion. This has prompted action from the service. One of the key moves made by the service is the establishment of 2 community forest associations, a first of its kind in this area.
We also require to engage with the forest adjacent communities. And in this case, we are able to send our team from the headquarters, working together with the team at the Conservancy and the ecosystem, to also create awareness among the forest adjacent communities in a way of helping them to form a CFA, a community forest association, that we can be able to engage with and who we can give legitimate access right into the forest, so that they are also able to benefit from grazing, from water resources, and from other activities.
Thanks to the cooperation from both levels of government, an access road is also being constructed to ease entry and movement into the forest for rangers stationed at the Kapiego and Chisoi forest stations.
I also came to see the status of that road because it will also provide a very, very good environment for us to patrol and support management and any other activity we want to do in the forest. And I'm happy the fight has gone, and perhaps in the next 1 or 2 months we should be able to have completed that road.
During the meeting with Elgeyo Marakwet Governor Alex Tulkos, the Chief Conservator of Forest was assured of the county government support in complementing the service's efforts.
We are working closely with KFS to ensure that we look into it, that we conserve our forests. We've developed a bill and policy to ensure that we do conservation in our community and also our farmlands. I want to urge also the other leaders, especially at this time when we are moving towards an election period. Let's avoid utterances that maybe will bring conflict between the government or the KFS and the communities, because this is an issue which is very sensitive, and as leaders we must be responsible.
Sentiments echoed by the County Commissioner Dr. Ahmed Umar, who said no stone will be left unturned in seeing to it that the forest reserve will be protected.
We are committed towards ensuring that we preserve the integrity of our forest blocks in Elgeyo Marakwet, including the Emberwood Forest. And we will use all means possible, both legal and in form of operation, to ensure that no land within Emberwood and other forest blocks are encroached and currently being degraded.
The Chief Conservator says the service will remain steadfast in its resolve to jealously guard the vast canopy of green cover from those looking to illegally benefit from it.
Even when the people themselves do not consider that and actually are taking actions that may be detrimental to themselves, we as a government must tell them to stop, so that we are able to work together and secure the lives of this current generation and also for the future generation.
The multi-agency approach, with support from both the national and the county government, will not only help the service protect this water tower, but in the long run see it grow more trees to appreciate and also reach the targeted forest cover.
As a police officer based at Kisii Police Station, Dan Sheshia Matakaya's life took a drastic turn on September 21st, 2013. While asleep that day, Matakaya alleges his wife poured sulfuric acid on his face, leaving him with multiple burns that have taken a huge toll on his life.
Initially, I never knew it was sulfuric acid. I thought maybe it was maybe cooking oil that has been boiled.
This action, says Matakaya, was triggered by a difference of opinion following the loss of their child.
She had been advised that we needed to have another kid so that she may heal from that loss. But to me, I was so reluctant.
Matakaya's colleagues rescued him and took him to the then Kakamega Provincial Hospital and later to Kenyatta National Hospital.
I was struggling, and the doctors saw what I was going through, and then they injected me and left me to sleep. So when I woke up later in the day, I realized that I could not see again.
After hospital, Matakaya followed up the case, which was already in court, but his perpetrator was released on bond, which gave her a window to flee, and her whereabouts have never been known to this day.
She did this and ran away. 2 days later, she surrendered. She surrendered to to the police, and she was charged with attempted murder. The case is still pending before court until now.
Matakaya now impacts lives of victims of GBV through his foundation dubbed Dan Shia Foundation. The foundation has, however, been struggling since the pandemic. Similarly, 34-year-old Maureen Atieno went through a similar situation. Maureen says she lost her parents at 12 years of age and was therefore responsible for her siblings. This situation forced her to travel to Nairobi to seek employment to support her siblings who are staying with various relatives. Life in employment was a little harsh for her, and that is when she opted for marriage at the age of 15.
Kosa tu kidogo hivi belt. Sasa unajua alikuwa ananichapa na silimi kulia naye imenishinda. Alisema we ni nani na kuchapa na uwezi lia.
However, staying on into the relationship almost cost her her life.
Nilikuwa nadhani amenichapa na kitu hapa. Iliniwasha nikafanya hivi. Bado damu haitoki. Tena akarudi upande mwingine, tena akafanya hivi. Sasa harakati ya kutembea ndio nilikuwa nasikia kama nyama inanipiga huku. Alikata hii ikaanguka. Alikata hivi, hii ni alama.
She was rushed to hospital. The husband was arrested and was taken to court.
Joseph, chukua mke wako uende ukamtibu na muende nyumbani na mfike salama.
With the release of her husband, Maureen has always been on the move in fear of what her husband will do to her if he knows of her whereabouts.
Nashtukia tu message, ananiandikia, Maureen, ni unajua nilikuona? Mimi naye simjibu. Sasa nilisema, sasa huyu mtu ananiona na mimi simuoni. Siku moja atakuja kuniangamiza hata usiku.
Nyambura Chege, a psychologist and resident counselor at Ngewa House Rehabilitation Center, says that most cases of gender-based violence in marriages are caused by the imbalance in power play by either of the spouses.
They are being monitored, their actions are being monitored, controlled. They feel like they have to be, the relationship has a silencing effect. They feel like they have to be quiet about some things that are happening, or they are told to be quiet.
Victims of GBV recover but can easily get triggered and sometimes end in returning to their abusive partners.
For someone to leave, it takes an average time of 7 times. Okay, so for one person it might be 2 times, and for another person 14 times, so the average is 7 times. And the reason for that is the cycle of abuse.
Valencia Jibera, an advocate of the High Court, advises on what a victim should do.
When you go to the police station, you are able to lodge a complaint with the officers, and they're able to take down your statement, and they're even able to call in the perpetrator or even arrest the perpetrator.
Any remedy for both Matakaya and Maureen?
She can still go to the police and file a complaint with the police, and she can also open a criminal case against her husband with that offense that was committed on a separate occasion. For the man is just to follow up with the police to ensure that this woman has been arrested and brought into court to face the law.
Chief Justice Martha Koome is on record committing the judiciary to a fast-track dispensation of justice for victims of GBV.
The only way to do it is to deal with that family. So we are working very closely with all the actors because it needs a multi-agency approach.
The program, this is still Good Morning Kenya. If you are just joining us, you're right in time for our second and last conversation this Monday morning. On our Family Check segment this morning, we try to focus on money and relationships. It's called the M word. The M word, as they say. That's our focus this morning. How to handle finances in relationships and possibly also in marriages. My guest this morning is Duncan Juma, who is a life coach and relationships expert, na hajakuja peke yake. Amesema hii lazima kuwe na mtu wake. Together with his wife, who is Kendi Juma, and they'll be talking to us about this elephant in the room, as they call it, money specifically. But before we get to the money aspect, let's start from where you guys began, just talking about marriages, relationships. I mean, I'm a firm believer of marriages and relationships, and perhaps this is what pushed you to begin in this kind of conversations, and perhaps on an online platform. Maybe I can start with you, Kendi.
We started having conversations. Okay, we've been married for the last almost 8 years now. And when COVID started, we realized that many people were at home and they didn't know how to unpack some of the things. I give an example. I'm an introvert. COVID worked for me totally, just working
for you,
from
there was
home.
No difference.
There was, like, I enjoyed. Yeah, I really enjoyed working from home. And he's an extrovert.
Yeah.
And just discussing issues about life, how we're handling COVID, how I learned he would really struggle staying in the house. And for me, I was really enjoying myself. We started having conversations with couples on Facebook and just hearing people saying, when we talk about me being an introvert and him being an extrovert, we're able to help a number of marriages. And through that, we're able to reach out to a number of people. Yeah.
Duncan, you have a story. Much as Kendi anasema, I'm an introvert, you're an extrovert, so just think the house was cool and easy, and I thought let's begin this conversation on Facebook or even on any other online platform about marriage and relationships. But for you, actually, it was not as easy being in the house, and even perhaps what pushed you to say, by the way, let's start having these conversations.
That's true. I'm the kind of person who regrets paying rent in Nairobi because I'm rarely in the house. You're just funding the future of your landlord without, Yeah. So during COVID, I'm an outdoors person. I do trainings, team buildings. I get a lot of energy just supporting projects, people. So when the country was shut down and we were told you can't even move to the next county, that was extremely painful. Like listening to the president, my tears were just like, now, how does this work? So I think week one, I'm at home still adjusting. That moment you tell your wife, hey, can you bring me a cup of tea? And she's like, as who normally no one is in the house during the day to tell me these kind of things. And then she's telling me I'm working. I'm like, but I can see you here. What did I sign up for?
And you can also go take it for yourself.
Exactly.
That's not true, but you help her. The word helper comes in at this point, And so staying at home was quite a bit of a problem. So there are days I would just go out, roam in the car. Of course, promise her that I'll not open the door for rest. Corona jumps into the car, But after some time, I started talking to people. We started saying, hey, can we process what we are going through? Can we share with the world? I'm an extreme extrovert. I have a lot of energy. I enjoy talking to people. Here I'm stuck with a person who likes to be quiet, who wants to have me time. I want to turn the table upside down because I have frustrations. I need to go out there. So because of that, then we started saying, hey, how are we processing this? But as we started talking about it, we realized many other people started identifying with us. We realized there are men who had gained their space by being this guy who floats around money. Now the work is no longer happening. You lost your job. You're now at home with the people you normally say you fend for. Your children are now no longer calling you uncle. They're calling you dad. You're in that space, and it's frustrating when you don't have money. A lot of men were looking very useful to be sent by their wives because now you're at home. And so that space was.
And even your kid can say, Daddy, nilete ili.
Yes.
And you're not used to that.
Because, maybe it is your wife who is now working, and you look like your money will come in future after Corona. There's a sense in which that was really frustrating for some of us. So I still think I'm yet to fully heal. So I'm overcompensating.
Also, you took advantage of the time and said, let's have this conversation.
I think the quality of any relationship is when you're able to say, hey, if you're going through anything, especially as a couple, and you're talking about it, I think 50+1% on the right route. The problem usually is when you know something is happening, everyone knows, but we are silent about them. So when we start unpacking this thing, we actually start enjoying just being different, because I realize she actually is working from home, and I can be the one fixing dishes as I, or doing lunch.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that, with the hope that it will not be burnt offering, so that she actually enjoys. And you discover, talents you had that.
Yeah.
But also you also realize a lot of times couples don't stay together. You're at work, 12 hours a day, or 8 hours on the road, to and fro, maybe another 4. You sleep averagely maybe for 7 hours. So the time for you bonding.
Yeah.
It is possible to live with your wife or spouse for very many years and not know what is actually going on their world, unless you have now time to unpack. Yeah, and that's why you've had even scenarios where people say, when children left, we realized we are strangers.
Yeah. Exactly.
You were never building that relationship. So talking about it, unpacking it was helpful.
So you can say this was like a blessing in disguise.
Yes.
The way, depending on how you want to look at it.
Exactly. She enjoyed us.
No, I think it was, even for us, we were able to spend, after the first few maybe weeks or months, we're able to bond. Like, I never had him like I had him during the COVID period. Juma was always, there are days he'd land and he leaves, he lands and he leaves. I was with him. I got to discover that he loves ice cream. I never knew that about him.
After 8 years.
No.
After 8 years.
My other name is
And mind you, you dated before the 8 years.
Yes, we did. 2 years. We didn't know.
My other name is Simiu. So if I can eat things that are away from Ugali, it looks like I'm prospering. Like, life is now happening.
Life is happening for you.
Yeah.
This is a good initiative, because when you look at relationships holistically and long-term relationships, marriages as a whole, and also when you look at our generation, there's that notion of, I don't think marriages actually work.
Yeah.
I really don't believe in relationships. So beginning this kind of talks, it sort of like changes that mindset and belief system of people. And you mentioned something, Juma, that even before you go to the finances aspect of it, let's begin from one of the major root causes, communication. Why is it a factor? What's so difficult about just saying, I don't like how you talk to me this way, or I don't feel good when you do this? What's so big about communication that when you look at the list of things that result to divorces or even relationships breaking, it's communication and then finances? What's it about communication?
Communication. I'm the kind of person, when you read my CV, it says I'm excellent in communication. But when I got married, I realized I'm not very good at communication, in the sense that, for example, she would come home and tell me I've had a bad day. And as a man, God has blessed me with wisdom to see that I can fix the thing that I'm making her have a bad day.
That's not what she wants at that point in time.
And that's not what she wants.
Not a
She wants me to understand she's had a bad day.
Yeah.
I can fix it 15 years later, Maybe she says, I went to the market and saw this person with yellow and the dress was looking awkward and it annoyed her. The things that annoy women.
Yeah.
Just random things that the world has bigger problems.
That you can't even make sense of it.
Yes. So
and it's a big problem.
Yeah, it is.
All she wants is for me to understand she's had a bad day. Of course, in my head, I have an A4 script of solutions to how to fix this thing permanently. And so in that sense, communication has a lot to do with the meeting of meanings, that what she is talking about and what you are picking are one and the same thing. Needless to mention that women don't speak directly.
Yeah.
I don't know which school you guys
Someone
went
said
to.
women go round in circles and men are logic and direct.
Like if I say, are you okay? And you say, okay, that apparently doesn't mean you're okay. Like, it's a whole system of this.
Yeah.
And being on the same page, and by and large, the lack of better communication there stems from very many other
Duncan,
things.
just pause a bit as I try to fix your mic. Let me come to you, Kendi, and maybe you can just pick it up from that capacity of communication, because I want us to go systematically until we just try to unpack these issues. Maybe we can try and solve a thing or two here when it comes to relationships and even marriages as a whole.
Yeah.
Let's talk a bit about that communication, because, the way I was even giving that example, what is so difficult about me just telling my husband, I don't like how you talk to me this way, I don't like when you come home late? Why does it just have to be an issue that communication is a big factor?
The way I look at it, communication is bigger. It's just not telling him. You see, there are times maybe I could tell him, Juma, I don't like when you come home late. But it depends. Maybe he's been hustling somewhere. Because at times maybe I'm getting so upset, he's come home late. But when he explains where he's come from or what had happened, you end up feeling like I'm the bad person, you know. But I've also learned through in marriage, learn when to talk, also as a woman. Let's say like when he comes home, he's had a long day, maybe it's business, he's not gotten any business, and here I am firing shots, you know, he's gotten home. I've not found out how was your day, what happened today, you know, I'm already upset. You sort of make him shut down. Yeah. I've learned at times know when to handle some issues. Maybe we might talk today, and if we talk about an issue today, we'll end up killing each other because we're both upset. Why don't we unpack this issue later on? But we agreed, even as a couple, even if we are mad at each other, we'll still go to bed together. You know, hakuna ile mtu anaenda kulala kwa kiti huyu analala huko kwingine.
Let's talk about the practicability of that.
No, by the way, you if you make it something that you guys live by, you can do it. Even if I'm upset, yes, it's possible. I mean, the days I go upset, I'm annoyed, I want to cry about an issue, but I realize maybe this is not the right time, but we are still married, whether we want it or not. But let's learn how to address issues. The issues are like, hii tukiongea kwa nyumba, we're going to kill each other. Let's go for a walk outside and talk about it. You know, but also, my thing is, when it comes to communication, timing. When do you address issues? You know, don't address when you're both upset about an issue. Yeah, it could be, let's think about this issue today, we'll talk about it tomorrow. And I've also learned at times it's learning to say sorry, or even him saying sorry when I'm not necessarily on the wrong. And you see, whenever maybe you're even having an argument with your spouse, you're right in your world, and this person is also right in their world. You know, but also sitting down and looking at where are you coming from? What does this mean to you? You know, when you address issues that way, then you're sort of able to handle the issues that you guys are going through. That's how I look at it. But communication is big, from family, learning how to address your in-laws, you know, learning who, say if there's an issue, Juma should not address my family. I should be the one who's addressing my family when there are issues. Same thing with him, because you know, when he addresses my family, they'll be like, hey, huyu kijana, huyu husband wako, unaona vile anatuingililia. Learning how to talk about these things. And I also learned, for communication, it does not start in marriage. It starts before you two get married. Talk about these issues, you know. Even like what he's talking about during COVID, if he doesn't have a job or I don't have a job, how do we handle some of these issues, you know? Start addressing these issues. But you find most times we start talking about these issues when you're already there. You know, go for classes that will help you guys start talking about these issues before you find yourself there. You'll not be 100%, but at least I believe you have conversation starters before you get into the marriage situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying that it's always about timing, and the question of knowing that you might not be right all the time, learning to say sorry.
Yes.
These some of the things that you have learned over time.
Yes.
Especially being in this kind of setup.
Yes.
All
yes,
right.
With time.
Makes a lot of sense. So you're coming back to you, Duncan. I mean, just talking about what you explained to us, especially about women and how women think, and perhaps even what would bring the whole aspect of proper communication in a marriage or even in a long-term relationship.
Most times when I'm talking to my wife, one of the reasons I picked her was I thought she still has a very
what do you mean that she had?
Very good brain. At least my judgment that they say the quality of your children really is pegged on the DNA of you. Perhaps men you just determine the sex.
And that's
it. Maybe. So you need to get a woman who, you know. But most times when she's talking to me, she tells me this is how I feel. I've seldom heard her say this is what I'm thinking, because then communication at that level, then it is really processed through her heart, and very few times
through her brain.
And this is the reality of it. When you get married to someone, when you're taking your husband to be vetted, what do you tell your mom? You tell he's a homemaker, he looks responsible, he has a good job, he can fund my future, he looks like he can, you know. But really, how you chose him was pegged on how he was making you feel when you know those communications. Where kata simu, where kata nitakupigia, nikikuongelesha nasikia kakitu. That's where really you made your decision on. So when you understand that really heart issues are complex, that's why you have a chance to hurt each other so badly. If you even just miss out on communication. And because of that, then as men, one of the things I've learned is to hear things and I can't say anything about, and just then the unfortunate bit is she then asks you, are you saying you can't say anything? I'm like, I'm no longer able to know when I should give my quality. You know, there are times I've told her she least benefits from my quality brain because she doesn't listen to me most times. But that's how, no perception bit to it. The thing is then communication has to be that you must be available for her to actually tell you poor Hawal. I notice ladies have to be in a zone where they trust you to then tell you whatever piece. Think of it this way. My wife can have an issue. She has a sister that they are very close. They can go meet and cry about an issue together. Like, cry. Then after that, they are feeling like, maybe let's say she's accusing me. And now they are crying together. They're like, that guy is not, that guy. Then they cry. After that, they breathe in and out and they have sorted out the issue.
And they are good. And they are good.
And they are good. And that's amazing. For us men, if I have an issue with her, and I know men have noticed I have an issue, I can go to my friend and say, hey, I have an issue with my wife, but I'm dealing. What I've done there is I've told him, yes, it is true, I have an issue.
But you haven't even said that you talked about it.
I've given you no permission to talk about it. You have no access to that issue. I'm dealing. But you see, now I have to be available to her to also cry with me or with her, so that it's not always the sister, or else it's actually the sister who is married. And so to be for her to feel understood is a bigger need for her, for her to even trust me now with the information she wants to tell me. So being available, the way, let me put it this way, every couple, for you to succeed, you must have some level of moshene with your wife. Where we just talk about things as they are in the world.
That is legit. I can even see one boy on the other side of saying, it is true.
You understand? But you see, for men, we have been wired to be, be a man. Why you talk about your neighbors? That neighbor who has funny legs, talk about it.
And talk about it with your wife.
After that, she
or with your spouse.
After that, she will tell you secrets that nothing else would have, so communication is key. And also part of it, as she mentioned, coming to a place where as a man, when the Bible says the two shall become one, what they never tell you is which one of the two you will become.
But you shall by default.
But mostly we become the woman. Like for peace to prevail, the choice of to be right or to be happy. What happens is you must reach a place where you actually be the smaller guy and say, I let you down. Even in that apologizing, it's actually a show of greater leadership.
Makes a lot of sense. I mean, Kendi, do you feel like sometimes that aspect of not understanding how the different genders behave is also one of the biggest contributor? Because just from what Duncan is saying, that sometimes understanding that this is how women actually communicate, that I'd want you, whether we've sorted this issue or not, but because we've cried together, it actually have solved. And thinking from the man's perspective that I do not need to actually offer solutions to you. So do you feel like sometimes not understanding how different genders communicate is also a big factor?
Oh yes, it is. I mean, our needs are different. They need to be loved. We need to be heard at times, and just not getting that from a spouse can be a big issue. It can result to a lot of conflict. Small things like even our personalities, how I prefer to spend my time and how he prefers to spend his time can be a big issue as far as communication is concerned if we don't learn how to voice it. Like initially I thought Juma was not okay, how he when we got married, just talking too much, how like when he's stressed he prefers hanging out with people, and I prefer like when I've had a long day I just want to go home, sit down, clean my house, do my everything, and it used to be an issue of conflict. And until we learned how to talk, in fact I think when he became a life coach and he did the personality test and all, and when I did the test I was like, I'm very okay and I think he's okay, and I learned how to support him. Like when he's had a long day, I'll go hang out with him even if it's not my thing, go out, meet people, he listen to music, and that calms him down, But initially I used to I remember in fact there's a time when we're newly married and the type of person I am, by 8, 9, it's time for people to go home and sleep. And him is like, hey, at around 9, 10, there are movies to go and watch. And we went to watch a movie. I think we're getting home at around 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. But I was like, I didn't die because of doing that. But I learned when you learn how to die to yourself, as far as some of the things are concerned, then you realize some of these things they're not really a big thing, and also not, part of also communication is learning. At times I don't have to be right. Let me allow him to have things his way, but also see how jafiniliwa. There's a way it can always be. It can things are being done my way or his way, but we also learn to express ourselves and say, when you do this, this is how I feel. Also understand why I'm saying things in a certain way. Why am I doing things in a certain way? It helps a lot. Yeah, but also the way we see things differently as men and women really affects us as far as marriage is concerned. Yes.
Kendi has mentioned greatly on that sacrifice bit, and even just giving a bit of examples here and there. Talk to us a bit about that.
Sacrifice.
Yes.
I'll quote the good book. They say, love your wife as Christ loved the church. I think as a man, the quality of a man really is pegged on the sacrifices you're able to make. A lot of us, and even the movies have showed us, that when the stero guy is winning, normally he's either given a wife or given a woman at the end of the day. If we see there's a woman in the picture, we settle silently. So there's a journey in which we walk through that then allows us to know that we need to sacrifice time with your family, for example. Most of us, even in Nairobi or in Kenya, we spend more time with our workmates than with our spouses. The people we say we are fending for, we don't. So unless you're deliberate to say, today I'll not hang out with the boys, let me just listen to my children, let me listen to my wife, sacrifice, even just, what happens normally is the lady has a dream, and most times silently, she thinks you will fund that dream. So
and she does not communicate about
most times they don't.
But she imagines you need to be knowing about
yes.
it.
That's why greater conflict is actually in failed expectation or unmet expectation. Most of these expectations are silent. If you ask the men, they would say, si ungesema tu, like what was so hard of you just voicing out what you wanted? Then the woman is like, you should have told me.
You should have known.
I'll give an example. Sometimes I'm in the house and I'm really feeling maybe tired. Then my wife is busy cleaning everything, cleaning. There's a way ladies work at home, cleaning everything, even the things that should not be cleaned. Though in her world, she assumed that I will see her
and reach
out. So as she's busy cleaning shoe number A, me I'm cleaning shoe number B. I'm like, if you needed help, just voice out. But the thing is, learning to study that wife and then making the requisite sacrifice, that means something for her. Let her be fixing the dishes as she will do the cooking as she's doing something else. What that means is then you are a team. Here is the thing. If something that your spouse does makes you feel in a certain way, that feeling needs to be communicated. If it irks you, it might be that you've just misunderstood those signals, but if it irks you or it makes you feel in a certain, communicate those things so that then they get to know what they need. There's something called dying to yourself. She mentioned I'm a random person, I meet a lot of people, but I spend time with her. She will tell you, I create a lot of time. Why? Because there are times I'll hear there's Luo night somewhere and it is calling me by all names. But then I look within, I'm like, what at the expense of what? So that sacrifice essence has to be there, even materially. There are times, and this is the thing, your spouse grow, even as a man, if you grow with her or she'll pull you down. There's a sense in which if she starts to feel insecure, you will not go far unless you unpack that. And so reaching places where you say, hey, of course there's a level of prudence that, let me put it this way. If I went and bought land in some godforsaken place, chances are she may not agree with me. Maybe I'm seeing 50 years from now. But the thing is, how I communicate that would make the difference. Or else, I'll have bought that land, but I'm lacking peace in my present. My future is secure, but my present is hell. So really, that is important. But also, there are things, there are needs your spouse has that sometimes you may not. The way people say, I'm having a headache, and the other guy or the other party wants something. Sometimes you can die to yourself and say, for the sake of this person.
Dutiful.
I am on duty unless you're fasting or praying. Saying these goodies are available, and it sometimes requires just sacrifice. Yeah, in that sense. Yeah.
All right. I wouldn't want us to finish talking about communication without having to touch a bit on, because communication is actually in two aspects. We have verbal and then non-verbal. So you can really emphasize a lot on voice it, talk about it, but what about those things we can't say, and it's only our non-verbal expressions that can actually express? How do you go about that?
That's why I think a lot of women will go to hell.
Why do you say that? Because you do a lot of non-verbal communication. But you see, we have two aspects of communication.
Am I going to worry about geopolitics? Who is the next president of Kenya? Or will I be thinking, I'm reading him?
Read between the lines.
Help with this,
read between the lines.
Mascaras that you guys have, you can't tell fully
what this person means when they're acting.
That eyebrow that process that shows she's angry the whole day. So you don't know whether she's and then she says she was happy. Like, how did I was supposed to know you are happy?
But that's why we have non-verbal communication.
Yeah.
I think let's just be. I think this is the thing. Maybe on a serious note, I think we need to talk about these things. Before you even make major steps, study each other.
This is the step of dating, courting, thereabouts.
Understand each other in context. If your girl loves hanging out, go also hang around where she's hanging out. You will pick out things that those dressing up for Java coffees will not give you. If she has this girl, she says, "Oh, my girl is annoying." Go figure out whatever is annoying. Is what you should annoy her on, and she'll be okay. Or perhaps So, I think by and large, non-verbal cues, men, we fail on that because we're not very good at reading in between the lines. If you tell me you're not okay, or if you tell me you're okay, then what am I supposed to work with? You told me it is recorded, we can play it again and again.
But haven't you heard of when someone tells you something or when someone speaks, learn to pick what they are not saying, because sometimes that's also communication. What do you think, before you continue, what do you think about that? Because that's also an aspect of communication. That when someone says something, and actually I think even when you go to journalism schools, they will tell you, when someone says something, there's more that they're not saying to what they are actually saying.
I think it's important, and learning how to to know this non-verbal cues. If I tell him, "Are you okay?" and when he asks me, "Are you okay?" and he looks at my face, definitely there's a problem.
So if I'm saying I'm okay or not, just be looking at the face.
Yes.
To tell you whether I'm okay.
Ama chai imeletwa aje, chakula. Then when you ask for your food, chakula iko wapi, inaonyeshwa na mdomo, that's non-verbal. There's a problem. There's a problem. But learning to understand them, and I think what you said, learning to date yourself. But I also think even us guys, we need to learn how to also express ourselves. I think men don't know how to handle some of these things or deal with them. Like as he's saying, I live with my sister, should know when she would see me doing something, she knew as a chick maybe something is wrong. But also learning to teach him some of these things. Ukiona niko hivi, anyway, it's not a good day. If you've walked in and I'm not talking, maybe I've had a bad day, but maybe give me a few minutes, I'll get out of this situation. But also learning to teach them our non-verbal cues so they also get to understand, because I don't think they really
I really like that part. Here's the thing. Most of us men, our emotions were not fully developed. Ulikuwa ukilia ukiangambua ekuwa mwanaume ngangari, So all our emotions most times are summarized into anger. Because we are frustrated. So you see an outburst, usually then it's an indicator of something these guys either been processing. But so what happens is sometimes you want to dilute that by drinking something stronger than tea, and because our emotions. So when we come to a lifelong lesson of reading in between, we're like, why can't you summarize this class? Just tell me. I'll put a red dot on my forehead. That means
I'm not good.
Today life is, So but I like what she's saying. Teaching us. One day my wife told me this. I want you to understand me, not because of anything, but because you're going to be a father to daughters. And that got my attention. Because then if they don't feel understood, there's always someone else. There's a mother-in-law involved. There's a sister somewhere. There's a cousin. Those they say, my best cousin. Those ones are the ones taking up almost like something you can build relationship capital on, because you're missing in action. And why were you shut out? It's because you did not understand her in the first place. I think men want to feel respected. That's why you can tell your man, I love you all forever. He will not read it. He will not even understand. In fact, we don't even buy us gifts, just to treat us with respect. Don't talk to me badly before my relatives, before my friends. Worship me in public, enjoy in private. That's just life.
Worship me everywhere. So again, I feel like it still goes down and boils down to sacrifice. You know, that aspect of teaching your spouse how you need to be handled, how you need to be talked to, and dying to yourself. Where was selfie yako ni ya kusemanga niambie direct, but for her it's just be reading in between the lines. So,
you know, she's a firstborn. So you know, by dying to say she's a dictator of all, you know, in a good way.
I think so. It's a firstborn kind of thing.
And we are both
firstborns.
So you should also have my
firstborns, two firstborns.
All right, so let's talk a bit about the finances. And maybe let's start from the point of when is the right time? I mean, you just met this person, you are like perhaps 6 months down, you're trying to think of a long-term relationship, perhaps even get into marriage. At what point is it right to start talking about finances, debt, investment, all these things surrounding finances?
You're looking at me, so I start.
I want you to start. Then she can cool it down.
I'll build scenarios. One, as a man, just come authentically without the money aspect to it. Come with your bonga points and say, hey, you look beautiful. I think you look like you can make a great spouse. If you think that is a conversation we can start having, I'm available at this Nyama Choma.
That's how you katia sound. Is that how he did it?
If you do it authentically, you're likely to have more traction. But I think finances should be part and parcel of the conversation at some point. But by and large, look at each other's dreams, look at the drive, the energies, get to know each other first, then get to listen. So right now, let me put it this way, it's possible for a girl to be in a relationship and purely because she looks good. Okay, I know I'm not saying this on TV, but for a man, there's usually something called responsibility.
Responsibility it is. Hold it right there. Time for us to take a very quick break. When we return, we come to unpack more of this, and especially just targeting on that topic that we started on, which is actually finances and relationships. How do you go about it? All that after this break. Stay with us.
Who cares what you think? Are you the boss or am I? Yeah, you're the boss. You're the boss. Listen to me. You have 10 minutes to explain yourself tomorrow. Stop. Okay. How dare you take that attitude with me?
Who do you think you are?
Mama already said we're not allowed to let you in. I wouldn't dare disobey her.
Oh, come on, she was joking with you. Open it for me.
Look, he put this on my finger.
用一段故事建筑一座城堡，会放弃。
judgment, there's no way out. Stop from you doing wrong. You don't call anymore, 'cause I'm still thinking about you. Have you found somebody new?
Nimekuwa moto upper off air, but we are back. We are continuing this conversation on money and relationships. Before you went on break, we are talking about that bit of responsibility, and I want you to pick it up from there before I come back to you, Kendi.
Yes, a man is defined really by the level of weight they are willing to carry through life, and usually that's why work is important. Sometimes you can meet someone, especially when you're newly married.
Yeah.
He may not have all the money, he may not
Yeah.
have, but if he has a work ethic, he's focused, he has a dream, he's punching as per his weight, there's a chance the sun will shine.
Mhm.
And those are good indicators, as opposed to someone who has money and you don't even have an idea how
Where
that
this money came
from and all that. So a man's responsibility is then, most times in the African context, we are then saying you're taking someone from their parents, quote unquote, and now you're going to be held responsible for, which is actually vice versa.
Yeah.
One of the things you discover as a man very early on in a marriage is any title you're given has a responsibility, and it has a monetary responsibility to it. When they say the man is the head of the family,
Man is a
when I say
provider.
money is involved, money is involved. There's no head without money. In fact,
There's no head without money.
I would urge men to know you're not the head of the family in qua ground. You are a member of your family. That works better, so but responsibility taking
So you have
care.
something to do for the family.
You have to go, and the only funny bit is that your wife or your girlfriend wants you 100 times to be with them and still work and fund their dreams. That's where the balance needs to come. But responsibility is...
And they're not saying that they want you to fund their dreams, but they
Yeah,
subconsciously
they
want
say
you
you no
to
longer spend time with us.
I'm working for you.
Before I got married, I had a six-pack. I was looking good.
Oh, really?
Now,
Oh, really?
I'm hairy.
But alikupenda nonetheless.
So I think if you see someone, especially those who have not gotten married and it's late in their marriage and they're hairy, looking ugly, those ones are baby husband material. Those are the ones you should go for. Those are the good ones. Those ones with six-pack, machos. But this is the thing: responsibility. A man punch, work hard. Deliver something. Don't overpromise. In fact, underpromise and overdeliver. Yeah. But also speak about, from a financial standpoint, speak about the expectations.
For both of you, talk about it.
Yeah, from a young age, girls are told you are a princess. Not true. Your father lied to you. But this is the thing. Because of that princess, there's an expectation built that this guy is actually... Then what happens is sometimes we end up having, let's say, for example, a grandiose wedding. You're telling the world life is happening for us. No, you don't have to. You can eat popcorn at your wedding and go have a great life. Just have this discussion.
Are you sure?
I agree with you.
Weddings are like girls.
Exactly.
Dream.
But why? Who are you lying to? Who are you lying to? In fact, just call them important people and go and spoil yourself with that 30,000 shilling buffet, whatever, and just, or who said you can't even call?
I don't know why it's just interesting. People that are already married, they will tell you about it in that way. After they're already just
we make mistakes. You don't have to repeat it.
You went through a lot of pressure only for...
It's not even a full day. It's a few hours, just for a few hours, and it was not worth it, and you're doing it for who?
But if you can.
No, if you can, well and good.
Go enjoy your day.
No, I'm just saying also don't stress yourself because you want to put up a show or impress people. You know, take a loan, start your marriage on the wrong footing because of trying to impress people.
Thinking people will notice. They don't notice.
They don't even care.
But the moment you buy your car, you realize many other people have your similar type of car.
And they don't even care about the car.
Exactly.
It's like in weddings, people also killer stuff. The food was not even enough. And you put a lot of money and you went and borrowed and you didn't even tell your spouse that you had to get a loan.
Imagine.
You didn't talk about it.
Imagine.
Let's talk about something I feel like it's quite important. And maybe I can start with you, Kendi, on this one. And we also had this bit of convo just off air a bit, that by the time you are marrying this person, you have given, by the time you're giving yourself even body, you've given your all.
Yeah.
So why then do people still feel the need to have secret investments, secret account? I mean, I've already given myself to you holistically.
Yeah.
So why am I hiding things that involve money?
I think it's, I think as we were having that discussion while we were off air, I think at times we've seen some of these things happen in society. Yeah. And also I think from the word go, we never talked, we're not transparent enough as far as finances were concerned. Maybe I thought if I told Juma that I take care of my sister, I'm educating her, he will not accept me. But if we've agreed we're getting married, put all your cards on the table. This is who I am. We are both firstborns. We need to educate our siblings. So it means, as far as our finances are concerned, maybe for the first 2 to 3 years, we'll be paying school fees for our siblings. What do our finances look like?
And make sure you agree on that.
You agree on that, Or maybe before we got married, I had a loan or he had a loan, and maybe the loan was for a good reason. It could have been a bad reason, but anyway, we're already getting married. Are we going to be paying this loan? What does that look like? I think at times, because we are not transparent enough, we end up having other things aside, And as we said, if I gave myself to Juma, what is money? We'll die one day and we'll leave that money. But let's also have candid conversations, and from the word go. I should not wait until I'm married, and that's when I'm telling Juma, you know what, I have a loan that I've been paying, or I'm in debt because of 1, 2, 3 things, or he tells me he took a loan to fund our wedding, and you end up starting your marriage on the wrong footing. Have these discussions from the moment, for me, look at it, from the moment we agree we're getting married, let's put our cards on the table. I know that's not what happens, but I think that will save you guys a lot of heartache and a lot of pain. Yeah.
Have these discussions, have these conversations. How do you start? You actually took a loan, whether it's good or bad, doesn't really matter. You are in debt, for example. You love this person, you've been dating for 3-4 years, now you're getting married. How do you start this conversation?
Of course, what society has painted is you need to look perfect. You need to look like things are working for you. They say she's getting married to a banker. And the banker has the house loan, mortgage, it takes home maybe 300 shillings. So have these conversations. Especially, you can start it from saying, this is the world, where do you want to live? What are your dreams about? Some of them are in very interesting spaces, castles in the air.
But you see, by the time you're beginning this conversation, you might imagine, nikimwambia ataniacha.
Acha kuacha, it's a good place ya kuachwa. That's really a good place to kuachwa. Rather than...
because I want to be so practical about this because you can keep saying, have this conversation. How do you start? And that is always a factor.
But they just start. Let me tell you, afadhali uachwe na deni sahi kuliko
uachwe huko mbele.
Ama you're already married.
Have sung a very interesting song. There's one that says, ulitangaza madeni yangu kwamba nililipa rent na tala or something. The thing is, talk about it. Yeah. It's gonna bite at some point.
Yeah. So the earlier the better.
I know someone who said, yeye na bibi yake watakula mali waachie watoto madeni ili watoto wakumbuke. But the point is, have the discussion. Have the discussion. Trust you me. Many relationships fall through the hard. There's something called authenticity.
Yes.
And there's something called just being responsible. Part of it is you putting your cards on the table and say, hey, I'm the firstborn in this family. For the foreseeable future. This is the plan I have for them, but for you also, this is the plan I have for you.
Yeah.
So that both of you see areas of, if I succeed and my family does not succeed, society equally has a way of judging.
And they'll always be biting into you.
Exactly. In fact, there's a saying where they're saying now the rich are not sleeping because the poor are awake, because the poor are not sleeping because they are hungry. If you the only one who has corn, proper seed maize, and you plant it and the others don't, because of cross-pollination, they will steal your maize, but also their bad quality will come in, So the thing is, start whatever way, as difficult as it is, when you start realizing this is the person I want to spend the future with, say this is where I am, but this is also the plan I have. It might not be very practical at that time. Usually when you're in love, you're a bit stupid, so you're not thinking straight. But in your sober days, think about saying, hey, this is it. She might even leave you for a week, but then she'll discover you're actually more authentic, and when the comeback will be stronger. Rather than you building castles, her thinking, then all of a sudden she realizes you are the worst debtor in town. Even the clothes you have, auctioneers are coming for them. Can you imagine that picture? What happens to your trust levels? What happens to... So it is a conversation you must have. However, this was a level of prudence involved in how you say these things. Maybe let me take a detour so that I explain.
Yes.
If I have rent issues, for example, how I tell Kendi that I have rent issues is as important as anything else. Let me illustrate. If I came to Kendi and said, now rent imechelewa, I don't know what to do, my world is collapsing and I don't know what to do. Immediately after that, I'll have two problems. One is the rent issue, and two, the impact of my words on her. My impact of my words are worse than the rent issue. One of the things I discovered is women love stability, and the interpretation of stability is not our interpretation of stability. If rent is supposed to be paid on 4th as a man, even if you have millions and you pay on 7th, your wife will interpret instability. And because of that, they start being wary and they start thinking,
and the money is there.
The money is there. Most times, there's money for a project, there's, you just delay it but money is there. For them, they want, if you're giving her 2,000 shillings for shopping every second of the month, as long as you do that, she thinks life is happening for you, because then that's the promise.
It's the consistency.
It's the consistency. So if you're not going to do it on the second, communicating upfront and saying, hey,
communication.
I'm going to delay a little bit, but I'm in charge. If you know rent is not even in the foreseeable future, you talked about non-verbal cues. We also have them, but you can say ni kuna deal mahali jaiva lakini iko inaiva.
I think that's why it was important for us to begin with that communication aspect, because it goes back to it.
If your wife is wise, she will know you are saying if you have something, this is a good place to.
Hakuna kitu saizi, but chances are.
Mungu atanipiga tochi hapa mbele. But you can bring God into the equation. Say Mungu haachi watu wake. Unajua as I go. Here's the thing, by the way, in a man, there's a king and a fool.
Okay.
They say as a woman, you get the one you speak to.
Is it a king and a fool or a king and a kid?
A king and a fool.
Okay.
You get the one you speak to. If Kendi comes to me and says, hey, tumekaa sana bila kula nyama kwa hii nyumba, hata hiyo siku hawatakula nyama, because he's talking to the fool in me. But if she comes and says, there's something that makes me feel today I'll eat meat. I can even go and steal for her, because then she spoke to my essence. And one of the ways to encourage men, especially after the pandemic period, speak to their potential. Don't speak to their weaknesses. Men detest, they actually zone out. Men have closure with one woman. Most times it's their mother. When you get married, you shift it to your wife. But if she uses what you have in confidence against you once, it goes back to default setting, your mother. So here's the thing. Speak to your man to their potential. Tell them, I know we didn't have food today, but I know you will bring back food. What happens is, then you go out to fight for your family. But if you don't have peace at home, the person you married is the one pulling you down. You even can, give up to life and just say, let fate rise, let fate,
So we can actually safely say, because you're really running out of time, I don't even know where the time went to, but so we can safely say that there's really no right time to actually have the conversations on money and finances. Just start and keep talking about it. Some of marriages people got married when they didn't have money. Money will change you if you didn't talk about the potential of what it can do to you. Money is power. The reason a man would want to have another woman
sometimes it's because you want to flex how far this money can take you. And so the essence of it is unpack scenarios even before they show up, but even as they come. Because what happens is, if your wife gets a promotion and she has more money than you, the dynamics are likely to change.
It's true.
The power dynamics, many men now who have a wife who earn more than them, you work carefully, you are more available.
Oh my God, you've just opened up a different story. You've opened up a different conversation that we do not have time for, but I believe we'll continue talking about this conversation perhaps as time goes by, because it's a very pertinent issue. And you know, just going by what you've said, that if your wife earns more than you, whether you like it or not, it has changed the dynamics. But hatuna your time saizi. But again, thank you so much, guys, for coming. This has been a very wonderful conversation. I've actually enjoyed myself, and I believe that also our viewers have learned a thing or two about relationship communications and finances as a whole. Very important issues in relationships. Sindio, my guests this morning have been Duncan and Kendi Juma, just talking to us about the most important things in relationships and marriages, finances, communication as a whole. And this is where we bring this conversation to a close this Monday morning. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Doreen Arange Okelo. On behalf of the entire team, we say thanks so much for watching. Till tomorrow, have a beautiful Monday morning.